Chapter 1892. Yi Qinghan was the first to charge into the immortal herb valley. Tens of thousands of vines extended from his body and swept in all directions. Lin Wuxian and Zhou Shuguang attacked from the sides, clearing away all obstacles for Yi Qinghan. The godchild looked at the jade pendant in his hand and said, "This jade pendant is real. It looks like he didn't lie. Cooperate with him." Whoosh! The three godchildren were definitely peak supremes. When they worked together, they were invincible. They took the lead in slaughtering the experts of the blessed Buddha temple and the other holy lands. Xia Yunxue said to the 9 godchildren, "Yi Qinghan wouldn't dare to lie to us. Since the benefits have been distributed, we believe in the Crown Prince's decision. Cooperate with him to get the immortal herb." Yes. The 9 godchildren and their guardians charged towards Yi Qinghan. Anyone who dared to stop them was stopped. For a short time, no one could get close to Yi Qinghan. Jailer and Zhang Jiuxiao attacked in order to cooperate with Yi Qinghan. Boom boom boom. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The saints and saintesses of the Holy Lands attacked with all their might. In an instant, the world was filled with colorful colors. It was so beautiful that it could steal one's soul. The lower realms all avoided it, not daring to get involved. Jacques stared at Yi Qinghan, who had suddenly appeared in the distance, and said in a deep voice, "Stop him." Yes. Auchenright, the other 4 saint children, and a few other experts rushed towards Yi Qinghan, using forbidden techniques as their ultimate moves. Holy light covered the sky, and the Holy Cross turned into a towering object, cutting through the void and pressing down on Yi Qinghan. At this time, a golden staff appeared in Ye Xing's hand. It was only the size of a palm. There was a green gem embedded at the top of the staff. It emitted an indescribable order and mystery. "Almighty Father God, please grant me the power to restrict all living things in this world. The land bathed in holy light is your domain. Within this domain, the staff of power will grant me supreme authority." Ye Xing's body emitted holy light. The green gem instantly exploded and mixed with the holy light. Like an immortal herb, the holy light spread out in all directions. The light of the staff of power enveloped everything within 1,000 miles. Whoosh! Many people fell from the sky. Their expressions changed. "This is the staff of power. Damned Oshi Holy Land." He had actually taken out an eternal sacred artifact. "Do you want to die?" Saint Sun Dongfang and the other holy maidens cursed, but they couldn't use the slightest bit of divine power in their bodies. It was as if they had become immortal. His body felt warm and indescribably languid. Yar Saint looked down at the heroes as if he was looking at ants and said in a crisp voice, "Everyone, as long as you don't resist, I will spare your lives." At this moment, the cultivations of Xia Yunxue, the 3 godsons, and Jailer were all suppressed. However, Jailer's 9 prison slaves still had more than 50% of their original strength. This was because they weren't humans at all, but weapons. Yi Qinghan's body sank, as if he was carrying 1,000 jin. His movements slowed down and he couldn't help but be shocked. He turned his head and saw Yar Xing standing proudly in the air with the staff of authority in his hand. He had turned this 1,000 li of land into a domain that no one could contend against. The people of the Oshi Holy Land were like wolves in a flock of sheep, constantly killing the experts of the strong sects and only seriously injuring the people of the Holy Land. Auchenright locked his gaze on Lin Wuxian, his eyes filled with killing intent. He drew his sword and rushed over. At this moment, Lin Wuxian's cultivation was sealed, and he could only use his body. No matter how strong his sword Dao was, without the support of divine power, it would be difficult for him to use even 1/10,000th of its essence. He looked at Auchenright's peak sword and his expression changed greatly. Zhou Shuguang's mountain river painting scroll's power was withdrawn into his body, and he couldn't use it at all. He could only watch as Auchenright attacked Lin Wuxian. Yi Qinghan was furious. He pulled out the wooden sword from his bosom, and a green light flashed. It actually tore apart the light emitted by the Staff of Eternity, forming a small domain. Yi Qinghan's battle strength had actually recovered to its peak state. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's momentum was like a rainbow as he counterattacked and killed Auchenright. Auchenright didn't expect that someone could use divine power under the power of the Staff of Authority. He couldn't help but be shocked. He quickly flew away, and a wisp of sword light shot towards Lin Wuqian's throat. Lin Wuqian didn't have the protection of divine power, so he could only rely on his sword Dao and his body. The sword light swept across and blocked the sword light, but it was swept away by the energy and sent flying hundreds of meters away. Boom! Lin Wuqian's body slammed into the mountain, and his soul was almost shattered. His expression suddenly changed, but the people of the Oshi Holy Land wanted to kill him quickly. Several lower plane cultivators rushed towards him at the same time. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed with murderous intent. The wooden sword flew out of his hand and stabbed towards Lin Wuqian. Wuqian, take this sword. It can help you recover your strength. Whoosh! Boom! The wooden sword broke through the shackles in an instant, and stabbed into the mountain beside Lin Wuqian's right hand. Lin Wuqian reached out and pulled out the wooden sword. The wooden sword might be as heavy as 1,000 pounds for others, but he was a pure descendant of the Green Lotus Sword Song. His sword Dao was deeply recognized by the wooden sword. In an instant, his strength recovered to its peak, and even surpassed everything. Whoosh! The sword light swept across, and the 4 lower plane cultivators who surrounded him were directly destroyed. The sword light shattered their bodies and souls into powder. Boom! Lin Wuqian held the wooden sword, and his aura was like a rainbow. His eyes flashed coldly, and he roared, "Auchenright, you will die today." Auchenright was shocked. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to have an eternal sacred weapon that could contend with the Staff of Power. Impossible. It's just a wooden sword. Auchenright was terrified. He wasn't Lin Wuqian's opponent. Using a forbidden technique, he could only injure Lin Wuqian. Now that Lin Wuqian had an eternal sacred weapon, he was even less likely to be his opponent. Auchenright didn't have the courage to fight against Lin Wuqian, who had an eternal sacred weapon, so he fled towards your saint. "Yar, save me!" Whoosh! Lin Wuqian put his palms together and held the wooden sword. The Green Lotus Sword Song evolved into a shocking sword Dao, piercing through the shackles and directly attacking Auchenright's back. Although your saint was dissatisfied with Auchenright's repeated disobedience, he was still the strongest holy son of the Oshi Holy Land. How could he not save him? Whoosh! The Staff of Power swayed with holy light, and the green gem bloomed. Yar Saint stepped forward and blocked Lin Wuqian's attack. The holy light barrier blocked Lin Wuqian's peak attack. Boom! The sword Qi and the barrier collided, and neither side gave way. "Get out of my way!" Lin Wuqian was really angry. He had to kill Auchenright. "Fellow Taoist Lin, give me some face." He was wrong this time. "Once we leave the secret territory, I will give you an explanation." Yar Saint's face was solemn. He didn't seem to want to fight against Lin Wuqian, so he only stopped Lin Wuqian from killing Auchenright. At this time, only Lin Wuqian and Yar Saint had divine power. However, the divine power of Auchenright's group was not suppressed much because the scepter of authority was made for the Eastern divine power system. "Wuqian, don't tangle with her. Get the immortal elixir." Yi Qinghan had lost his wooden sword and only had his physical strength left. It was impossible for him to get the immortal elixir, so he could only warn Lin Wuqian. Chapter 1893. Yi Qinghan roared angrily. Lin Wuqian finally reacted. Auchenright could be killed at any time, but the immortal medicine only appeared once every tens of millions of years. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian withdrew his sword and turned to attack the immortal medicine, but Yar Saint was unwilling. His figure flashed and blocked Lin Wuqian. Boom! The staff of authority was bathed in holy light, suppressing all chaos. It was worthy of being an eternal sacred artifact. Bathing in holy light, all living beings couldn't even control a trace of divine power. The green lotus with sword could tear through the shackles and operate normally. Sword light swept out, suppressing your saint. Auchenright, don't kill. Go get the immortal medicine. Your saint was suppressed several times and could only remind the Oshi sacred ground's holy sun. At this time, Yi Qing Han erupted. His body was invincible, and his body was at the lower level. Moreover, he was invincible among his peers. He stomped on the rocks and dove down 1,000 meters, risking his life to rush to the other side of the cliff. If he fell, there would be nothing left of him. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little golden monkey on his shoulder kept squeaking, beating its chest with its little paws. Its eyes were shining. Boom! Yi Qing Han soared into the sky. He actually relied on the power of his leap to travel thousands of meters. He stomped heavily on a mountain peak. There were still a few cliffs before he reached the valley where the immortal medicine was, but there wasn't enough distance for him to use his full strength. He could only rely on his spirit pet. Go, get the immortal medicine back. Yi Qing Han directly threw out the little golden crow, the colorful snake, the startwining vine, the divine bird, and the little golden monkey. Some of the 5 divine beasts flew into the sky, while others relied on the rocks and trees to move. They were extremely fast. Yi Qing Han stood on the mountain, watching Auchenright sweep his sword in all directions. He roared, "Divine Eagle, fuse!" But the God-Eater Eagle couldn't fuse with Yi Qing Han. Under the holy light, it was as if it was separated from Yi Qing Han. Screech, the God-Eater Eagle screeched and rushed out, but it could only display the same power as an ordinary bird. It probably couldn't bear Yi Qing Han's weight. Take me back. Yi Qing Han wanted to use the godly eagle to return to the ground and restrain Auchenright and the other powerful holy sons. But before the godly eagle could even take to the air, Auchenright had already attacked with his sword. There's no need to go back. Let's be buried here today. Whoosh! Roar. The sword whistled like a rainbow, deafening to the point of collapse. Auchenright charged forward with his sword in hand. The sword beam swept through the mountain rocks and ancient trees as it swept past Yi Qing Han's side. Boom! Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qing Han immediately recalled the god-devouring eagle back into his body and dodged in a panic. He almost fell off the mountain peak. In the end, he grabbed onto an ancient vine and barely dodged this sure-kill sword. Bang! Yi Qing Han immediately stepped onto a fulcrum and steadied himself. He watched as Auchenright arrived at the top of the mountain, and his eyes flashed with a divine light. Auchenright's lips curled into a sinister smile. He said quietly, "I'll kill you first, then I'll kill Lin Wujian." Yi Qing Han looked at Auchenright with disdain. A bronze bracer was wrapped around his arm, and his hand was protected by a golden divine copper glove. This was a heavy-duty defensive suit that he had made for himself. In a situation where he didn't have any divine power, he could still display the battle strength of a peak lower-level cultivator. "I'm afraid you don't have the ability." Yi Qing Han clenched his iron fist. His body emitted a majestic power that seemed capable of swallowing mountains and rivers. "Then let's try." This time, Auchenright didn't use any forbidden techniques. Against a lower-level cultivator without any divine power, if he still used forbidden techniques, then he was truly useless. Roar! The holy light sword carried a majestic power that cut through mountains and rivers. The sword beam cut through everything and swept across the mountain peak. This indiscriminate attack didn't give Yi Qing Han any chance to dodge or escape. Boom! Yi Qing Han crushed the mountain rocks. Not only did he not dodge, he instead charged towards Auchenright's body. Boom! Bang! Unfortunately, he was still a bit too slow. Before Yi Qinghan could reach Auchinleck's side, the sword beam had already swept past him. He had no choice but to swing his iron fist and smash against the divine sword. Boom! The strength of his body exploded to the limit, fiercely colliding with the holy light sword. The sword beam was like a rainbow, spreading out in all directions. Ka ka ka. The rocks under Yi Qinghan's feet constantly shattered. A majestic power rose up from the ground and swam to his waist. He actually used his body to block the sword. Hua! The moment Yi Qinghan blocked the sword, his body twisted, and his slender iron leg swept out, directly approaching Auchinleck's body. If he wanted to win, he had to fight in close combat. Auchinleck was also shocked by Yi Qinghan's abnormal body. In a hurry, he only used 50% of his divine power, attaching it to his long leg, to forcefully collide with Yi Qinghan. Boom! Bam bam bam! The two separated in an instant, constantly retreating. The top of the mountain was only about 20 meters long and wide. How could it withstand such a collision? The two retreated to the edge of the cliff, half a step away from falling off the cliff. The battle here shocked the others. They didn't expect someone to be able to erupt with divine power in a battle. They all looked at Yi Qinghan, only to discover that Yi Qinghan was only relying on his terrifying body. Yarsheng was doing his best to pester Yi Qinghan. He wanted Auchinleck to get the celestial medicine and quickly leave. Who would have thought that Auchinleck would run over to fight with Yi Qinghan? He immediately flew into a rage and said, "Auchinleck, my patience is limited. If you dare to cause trouble again, I will report to my master when I return and directly remove your position as the Holy Sun." Auchinleck's face suddenly changed. At this moment, he wanted to leave this place to get the celestial medicine, but Yi Qinghan was staring at him like a poisonous snake. If he dared to turn around to get the celestial medicine, Yi Qinghan would smash him off the cliff. Yar! I'm being pestered by him. Auchinleck's hoarse voice was filled with helplessness. Boom! Lin Wuqian attacked several times. Although he could suppress Yarsheng, he couldn't break free. As for the other holy sons, it would take 3 to 5 of them to stop a lower realm holy sun. Without the support of divine power, they were just trash. Prison's 9 great prison slaves blocked the other holy sons of the Oshi Holy Land. Although they couldn't crush them, they could at least stall them. Without the support of divine power, the death rate increased greatly. This was because some people's sword techniques had reached the point of perfection. Their attacks were sure to kill. Some middle realm holy sons died at the hands of lower realm holy sons. Now they relied on technique. Because no one had divine power. If this continues, sooner or later we will all die. Quickly think of a way. Xia Yunxue said to the 3 godsons. What can we do? This scepter of authority is the symbol of the Oshi Holy Land's authority. Fortunately, she didn't bring the emperor crown. Otherwise, with the support of the two, we wouldn't even have a chance to resist. Jia Yard's master roared. Just as everyone was fighting, the divine bird, the multicolored snake, and the little golden monkey passed through the mountains and entered the location of the celestial medicine. Roar! A giant golden python appeared. It was as if it was about to evolve into a true heavenly dragon. Its aura was like a rainbow. It was definitely a vicious creature of the upper realm. When it saw the divine birds approaching, it let out a low roar. The airwaves directly sent the 6 divine beasts flying. Obviously, the huge python was the guardian beast of the celestial medicine. Chapter 1894. The golden python had been hiding in the immortal mountain all this time. Its long body was curled up like a mountain, and the power it exuded was even more terrifying than that of an upper-level cultivator. Roared up, the giant python roared like a dragon, and with a light flick of its tail, the mountain collapsed and the earth cracked. Its tail was already far away from the valley. It's an upper-level golden python. Run! A roar woke everyone up, and they no longer cared about fighting. They scampered away, but without divine power, their speed was as slow as a turtle's crawl. The holy sons and holy daughters who were calm in the face of danger were also shocked. They weren't afraid of opponents of the same level, but against an upper-level golden python, they didn't have the strength to resist. Even without divine power, it could sweep away everything. Boom! At this time, Lin Wuqian and Yarsheng clashed again, but they couldn't break through each other's defenses. The golden python has appeared. How about we join forces to fight it? Yarsheng held the staff of authority and said in a deep voice. Lin Wuqian looked at the distant Yi Qinghan and Auchenright fighting to the death. They could fall off the cliff at any time, so he had no choice but to compromise. Yarsheng saw that Auchenright was still entangled with Yi Qinghan, and the anger in his heart grew stronger. His figure flashed, and he appeared on the mountain top. His golden eyes shot out a beam of light that directly enveloped Auchenright. Bang! Auchenright actually knelt down on the ground, not even having the slightest will to resist. Auchenright, I've given you several chances. Do you think I don't dare to kill you? Yarsheng coldly asked. Auchenright's face was pale, and he didn't dare to look at Yarsheng's golden eyes. His hands and feet trembled, and he didn't even have the courage to stand up. He said in horror, Yar! I thought I could kill this person in an instant, trash. Get lost. Yarsheng was the most terrifying at this moment. It turned out that her strongest point wasn't the staff of authority, but her eyes. However, she seemed to have a good impression of Lin Wuqian, so she didn't use her golden eyes to deal with him. Auchenright was so frightened that he immediately fled from the mountain, quickly disappearing into the crowd. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but take a deep breath as he looked at Yarsaint's golden eyes. Only now did he realize that her eyes were similar to the scepter of authority. The most frightening thing was that her bloodline could actually suppress his own blood. Yarsheng glanced at Yi Qinghan, then said in a low voice, I really have underestimated the people of the world. They actually managed to resist Auchenright's peak power with their physical bodies. If I have the time, I would like to ask the two of you for some advice. Any time. Yi Qinghan replied indifferently. Lin Wuqian took a deep breath, held the wooden sword in his hand, and said in a deep voice, Master, I'll send you there first. Leave this golden python to your disciple. Yi Qinghan nodded. Without the green lotus wooden sword, it was impossible for him to contend against the upper-level golden python. Whoosh! Lin Wuqian grabbed Yi Qinghan's large hand and quickly sent Yi Qinghan to the other side. Be careful. This is the green lotus wooden sword. It was forged with the blood of the creator of the Green Lotus sword song for countless years. It is connected to the Green Lotus. Try to comprehend the sword intent of the Green Lotus. Perhaps you can suppress the golden python, but be careful of my spirit pets. Yi Qinghan whispered. Lin Wuqian nodded respectfully, then quickly returned to Yarsheng's side, ready to join forces. The Green Lotus sword chi and the Green Lotus wooden sword soared into the sky. Yarsheng couldn't help but look at the youth in front of him. Before Yarsheng made his move, the golden python was stunned. Its aura was restrained, and it spoke in human language. Its deep voice was vast and mighty, deafening. Green Lotus Sword Song. This is the Green Lotus Sword Song. The powerful creatures of the great Shang dynasty should know what the Green Lotus Sword Song meant. It was a kind of pure faith. However, the golden python didn't intend to leave the celestial herb. Instead, it raised its head and looked down at Lin Wuqian and Yarsheng. It said in a deep voice, Human, for the sake of the Green Lotus Sword Song, I will spare your lives. Quickly leave this place. Just a small upper realm golden python. Do you think you are an eternal sovereign? Even if you are, you will have to retreat under my staff of power. Yarsheng was extremely domineering. The staff of power in her hand directly pressed against her forehead. Her eyes, together with the green gem, erupted with a terrifying power. It was overwhelming, like a surging flood. The will of the world was suppressed, and only her will was left in the domain. However, there was one person who ignored this terrifying domain. That person was Lin Wuxian, who was holding the wooden sword. It wasn't that he was strong, but that the wooden sword was too terrifying. Under the stimulation of the staff of power, its aura became even stronger. Hum. Boom. Lin Wuxian put his palms together, and a green lotus appeared. Since you know the green lotus sword song, then retreat. This celestial herb is mine. Lin Wuxian said in a deep voice. Today, not to mention you two, even if the green lotus comes in person, I won't give up the celestial herb. As long as I have it, I can ascend to the celestial realm and surpass the eternal sovereign. Everything in the world can change at my will. The golden python shouted angrily. Attack! Yarshing didn't understand what Lin Wuxian and the golden python were talking about. She also didn't know who the green lotus sword fairy was. She only knew that she had to attack now. If she wanted to seize the celestial herb, she had to suppress the golden python. The two of them moved side by side. A suppression domain isolated the great Tao of heaven and earth. The golden python couldn't mobilize the power of heaven and earth. It could only rely on brute force. Hum. Whoosh. Lin Wuxian's sword intent was like a rainbow. This sword, accompanied by green lotus, directly broke the void and attacked the golden python's vital point. Boom. 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 The golden python swung its gigantic tail and viciously smashed the two of them. Its body was even more monstrous than Yi Qinghan's. As long as they were hit, even if the two of them possessed monstrous divine power, they would still be smashed into pieces. Whoosh! 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 The wind whistled and the air surged. In an instant, the space collapsed and the two were sent flying. This was the difference between heaven and earth. No matter how strong the divine weapons in their hands were, they couldn't resist the surge of heaven and earth. Boom! Yarsheng and Lin Wuxian's bodies couldn't resist the distortion of space. They fell heavily to the ground and smashed in front of Yi Qinghan. They had no power to resist at all. Yi Qinghan's face changed slightly. Seeing the golden python swinging its huge tail again, he waved his hand and grabbed the wooden sword in Lin Wuxian's hand. He put his palms together and his mind, accompanied by the wooden sword, merged directly with the green lotus sword fairy outside the secret realm. The two of them were like water and milk. Now, with the wooden sword as a medium, they instantly merged. Evil creature! How dare you go against my will? The green lotus sword fairy seemed to be able to see through the essence of illusion. However, these words were spoken by Yi Qinghan, who was inside the secret realm. They contained an unparalleled and eternal might. Bang! The golden python's huge tail fell heavily and smashed into the cliff. Its head was prostrated, and it was extremely respectful. Even the will to resist had disappeared. My supreme master, the golden python looked at Yi Qinghan's current appearance. Its eyes were as if they had been stabbed blind, and golden blood flowed out. Yarsheng only glanced at Yi Qinghan for a moment before hurriedly turning her head. Her heart was beating uncontrollably. Dong dong dong. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yarsheng was so scared that her face turned pale. Even the staff of power lost its luster and directly entered her blood. At this moment, Yi Qinghan stepped into the valley where the flying immortal elixir was. There was a small lake in the valley, and a golden lotus was blooming. This wasn't a flying immortal elixir. It was clearly a green lotus with the same root as the green lotus sword fairy. However, the green lotus had already matured, and the golden lotus was about to fly into the sky. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan subconsciously waved the wooden sword in his hand, cut off the root of the lotus leaf, and put it into his arms. The immortal light disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Chapter 1895. The wooden sword was psychic. Even if he was billions of miles away, Green Lotus Sword Immortal could still rely on the wooden sword as a medium to control the surroundings. With a deep roar, he could make the peak upper realm golden python submit. Yi Qing Han obtained the immortal herb and returned to his original place, causing Yer Saint to be extremely hostile. A thick pressure enveloped Yi Qing Han. The staff of power emitted an even stronger pressure, but Yi Qing Han's aura was even stronger. With the wooden sword in hand, it was as if the Green Lotus Sword Immortal had personally arrived. He looked down at Yer Saint. Lin Wuxian stood beside Yi Qing Han, holding the divine sword in his hand. Although he had lost his divine power, his aura was still like a rainbow. Green Lotus Sword Song. What a powerful sword technique. Who is Green Lotus? Yer Saint asked in a serious tone. Yi Qing Han frowned, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. The news of Green Lotus Sword Immortal couldn't be spread. Yer Saint didn't know about Green Lotus Sword Immortal, but the Holy Master of the Oshi Holy Land, an eternal sovereign, definitely knew. He couldn't be sure if the Oshi Holy Land had participated in the battle back then, so he couldn't be sure if they had any enmity with Green Lotus Sword Immortal. The only fortunate thing was that after the golden python appeared, the others fled. No one saw Yi Qing Han summoning Green Lotus with the wooden sword as a medium. Otherwise, Xia Yunxue would have reported this to Xia Jiulong, and Green Lotus Sword Immortal would have been exposed. Yer Saint saw the killing intent in Yi Qing Han's eyes and said indifferently, "You want to kill me? Do you think that's possible? I've been patient with Daoist Lin. Otherwise, do you think he would still be alive?" The wooden sword in Yi Qing Han's hand trembled slightly, and he whispered, "How do you know if you don't try?" After saying that, Yi Qing Han put his palms together, wanting to contact Green Lotus Sword Immortal again to kill Yer Saint. However, Green Lotus Sword Immortal didn't respond. He tried several times but still didn't succeed. Instead, a sharp aura came from the wooden sword that wanted to seize his life. At this time, Yi Qing Han recalled Green Lotus Sword Immortal's words. He shouldn't use the wooden sword if he could. It seemed that the wooden sword could only allow him to erupt with power once. Roar! The golden python let out a low growl as it glared at Yi Qing Han. It couldn't accept the fact that the celestial medicine it had guarded for so many years had been snatched away just like that. However, the golden python did not dare to act recklessly. It had truly felt the power of the Green Lotus Sword Immortal. Others might not recognize the Green Lotus Sword Immortal, but the golden python was so powerful. It must have lived for countless years and understood how terrifying the Green Lotus Sword Immortal was. Whoosh! Yarshing gently walked forward, her white robes as white as snow. Her golden divine eyes combined with her noble bloodline erupted with a supreme pressure. The staff of power was at its peak. Perhaps she didn't care about the wooden sword in Lin Wuqian's hand, but she couldn't help but care about the wooden sword in Yi Qing Han's hand. This was because Yi Qing Han could borrow even more power from the wooden sword. Just as Yarsheng was feeling nervous, Yi Qing Han suddenly waved his hand and hid the wooden sword. He smiled as if nothing had happened and said seriously, "Fighting and killing is boring. The golden python is still here. Let's find another place to talk." Yi Qing Han didn't dare to use the wooden sword again. Otherwise, it would suck his vitality dry. However, Yarsheng didn't understand Yi Qing Han's situation. Seeing Yi Qing Han's change in attitude so quickly, she couldn't help but feel puzzled. However, since Yi Qing Han wanted to talk, it couldn't be better. "Let's go." The three experts moved as if they were flying. Lin Wuqian and Yarsheng could fly for a short period of time, but Yi Qing Han relied on his physical body to jump faster than flying. He rushed into the distance like lightning. At this moment, all the major forces had fled to the periphery. The golden python of the upper realm was not something they could contend with. The group of people from the crazy sect had also fled far away. Yan Yunbei returned to his position, protecting the people of the crazy sect as they moved closer to the periphery. A few days later, Yi Qinghan, Lin Wuqian, and Yarsheng appeared in a valley thousands of miles away. Yarsheng and Lin Wuqian were still very cautious, but Yi Qinghan looked relaxed. Yi Qinghan had been observing for the past few days and found that Yarsheng's attitude towards Lin Wuqian was indeed different. There was a hint of a smile in her eyes, so he knew that she had a good impression of Lin Wuqian. Ahem. Miss Yarsheng, since you also like Wuqian, why don't we talk about it? Instead of fighting and killing for the celestial herbs, it's better to cooperate, right? Yi Qinghan rubbed his palms and said in a very low-key manner. Yarsheng looked at Yi Qinghan in surprise. She didn't expect him to want to talk with her even though he had the advantage. Give up some of the celestial herbs. However, when she heard Yi Qinghan directly say that she liked Lin Wuqian, she couldn't help but blush. Yi Qinghan looked at her performance and became more certain. Lin Wuqian's mouth twitched. He didn't know anything about relationships. When he heard Yi Qinghan say so, his face turned a little red. He secretly glanced at Yarsheng, and the two of them happened to be looking at each other. They quickly looked away and lowered their heads. Ha ha ha, young people like you but don't dare to say it. This is normal. I've been through it. I know that if you like someone, you have to fight for it. If you can't win it, you have to snatch it. If you can't snatch it, you have to think of other ways. If you don't even have the courage to confess, how can you say you like him? Yi Qinghan grinned. Master. Lin Wuqian was a little speechless. He didn't know what Yi Qinghan wanted to do. Yarsheng looked at Yi Qinghan awkwardly. She didn't expect him to be so straightforward. My family's Wuqian is a dragon among men. He will definitely become an eternal in the future. Presumably, he is qualified to marry you. Moreover, I regard Wuqian as my own son. If you are willing to marry me, I will give you an eternal pill as a dowry. Then we will be a family, right? What's the point of fighting? Yi Qinghan said straightforwardly. Yarsheng restrained her powerful aura, restrained her vitality, and shyly bowed her head. For a moment, she didn't even know what to say. How could an inexperienced little girl like her resist the deception of an old fox like Yi Qinghan? Lin Wuqian didn't expect that Yi Qinghan would sell her body in order to keep the secret and stabilize Yarsheng. Master, you. Lin Wuqian was just about to speak when Yi Qinghan interrupted him. What are you talking about? The saintess is giving you face by taking a fancy to you. There are many heroes in the world. Have you ever seen her take a fancy to anyone? Now that she has made her attitude clear, why are you still so shy? Why don't you express your inner joy to the girl? Yi Qinghan suddenly reprimanded. Ah! Lin Wuqian wanted to speak but hesitated. He looked at Yi Qinghan and then at the beauty in front of him. Yarsheng was indeed a very beautiful woman. Moreover, the charm of Western women was completely different from that of Eastern women. Anyone would like such a woman. Yi Qinghan stretched out his hand and pinched Lin Wuqian's back. Idiot! If I could kill her, would I still need you? Besides, winning over the Oshi Holy Land will give the Kuang sect a guarantee in the future, right? Now, the news of Green Lotus Sword Fairy cannot be spread. You must stabilize her for me. Oh, oh. Lin Wuqian's immature face showed a touch of embarrassment. He rubbed his hands and wanted to speak, but he was too nervous to say anything. Slap. Yi Qinghan slapped Lin Wuqian on the back of his head, pushed him to Yarsheng's side, and said softly, Idiot, if you don't know how to speak, then do something. Hug her. That Yarsheng and Lin Wuqian both cried out awkwardly, blushing. Chapter 1896. Lin Wuqian staggered as Yi Qinghan pushed him into Yarsheng's arms. The two hugged each other, not knowing whether to separate or not. Yi Qinghan grinned. Seeing that Yarsheng did not refute, he knew that this woman belonged to the crazy sect. Western women had always been independent. They basically made their own decisions about marriage, unlike Eastern forces, where marriage was more likely. Ha ha ha, I am very generous to my daughter-in-law. Yar. Saintess, you are worthy of my child. I personally raised Wuqian. I can guarantee his character. You two will definitely reach the top together in the future. Yi Qinghan was ecstatic in his heart, but on the surface, he just smiled boldly. Although Lin Wuqian had been married once, it only existed in name. After all, the gap between them was too big. At most, he would only have a child after getting married. He rarely had close contact with women. Now, he was dizzy and almost couldn't stand straight. Lin Wuqian was in a daze. Yarsheng might have taken a fancy to Lin Wuqian. Not only was he strong, but he was also extremely simple. He didn't have the arrogance of those disciples of big forces. Yi Qinghan looked at Lin Wuqian's bewildered appearance. It seemed as if he had expected better from Lin Wuqian. Yi Qinghan wanted to beat him up violently. If he had been in Lin Wuqian's shoes, he would have pulled him up and whispered some intimate words of love. However, Yarsheng could see that Lin Wuqian was inexperienced. She took the initiative to hold Lin Wuqian's big hand, bowed her head and said shyly, I will follow Sect Master Ye's decision. Yarsheng was very respectful, as if she was looking at her parents-in-law. Good, good, good. Ha ha ha. I will send this eternal pill to the Oshi Holy Land as a betrothal gift. Yi Qinghan said excitedly. Lin Wuqian finally got used to it. He took the initiative to hold Yarsheng's jade-like hand. Powerful qi and blood surged, boiling hot. Immortal qi rushed into Lin Wuqian's body. The two of them resonated with each other, their auras soaring to the sky. Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and said embarrassedly, well. Saintess Ye, please don't tell anyone about Green Lotus Sword Deity and Green Lotus Sword Song, including your parents. This is a little secret of the insane sect, and it can't be exposed for the time being. Yarsheng looked at Yi Qinghan and pondered for a moment. Indeed, he did not know what the so-called Green Lotus Sword Song and Green Lotus Sword Immortal were. After all, it had been too long. Perhaps even Xia Jiulong did not know. Only the Eternal Sovereigns knew, and some Eternal Sovereigns might not even know. Because the matter involving Green Lotus Sword Immortal was too shocking. Green Lotus Sword Immortal was an existence that had killed Eternal Sovereigns, and Eternal Sovereigns were advocating that Eternal Sovereigns were undying existences. Once the matter of Blue Lotus Sword Immortal was exposed, the mighty image of an Eternal Sovereign in the hearts of the countless life forms of this great world would instantly collapse. I will listen to Senior's instructions. But I'm afraid that my Oshi sacred ground will not agree to only pay one eternal pill. Yarsheng said in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. The flying immortal godly medicine could only be refined into 9 pills. The Holy Empire of the Central Plains only had 1, and the sky-reaching cult would definitely have to pay 1. That was to redeem Lord Fazhen, Hell, and the battle race. Now that the Oshi Holy Ground had 1 more, and Zhou Shuguang had 1 more, there would only be 3 left. If he gave the Oshi Holy Ground 1 more, there would only be 2 left. 3 of them. Too little. Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of foul air. He looked at Yarsheng and knew that she was definitely worth more than 1 flying immortal divine medicine. AI, who asked you to be my daughter-in-law? In addition, on the day of the wedding, I will give you another one. I really can't give you more. You also know that Zhou Shuguang has 1 each from the sky-piercing cult, the Holy Empire of the Central Earth, the War Clan, and the Hell. Including you, there will only be 2 left. There are so many people in my crazy sect, 2 is nothing at all. Yi Qinghan sighed and said. The Yar sacred lands were satisfied with obtaining one more eternal pill. At least, it was one more than the other holy lands. Presumably, the Oshi holy lands would also be satisfied. Many thanks, sect leader Yi. After returning this time, the Oshi holy lands will definitely vigorously support the crazy sect. Yarsheng said excitedly. Yi Qinghan nodded. Looking at the two of them, he said, Saintess Yarsheng, although you are a saintess, there is a saying in the East that goes like this, marry a chicken and follow the chicken, marry a dog and follow the dog. There is also a saying that a son-in-law is half a son. My Wuxian will consider your Oshi holy lands, but you must also treat the crazy sect as your home. Let's work together. The outside world is so big, our crazy sect will never encroach on the territories of other holy lands. However, I think this shrouding heaven's secret realm can become our headquarters. Yarsheng was taken aback. She didn't expect Yi Qinghan's appetite to be so big. He wanted to monopolize the shrouding heaven's secret realm. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and said, Don't worry, this is just a plan. When Wuxian and I become eternal sovereigns, we will talk about this matter. As long as the shrouding heaven's secret realm is ours, the Oshi holy lands can come and go as they please. We will never treat them badly. Yarsheng looked up at Lin Wuqian's handsome face, her eyes full of emotions. Western women were so bold. As long as they liked someone, they wouldn't hide anything. Wuqian, what do you think? Yarsheng asked with a smile. Lin Wuqian said firmly, In this life, I will never let down the friendship between the crazy sect and Yarsheng. With your words, I am relieved. I will leave this place first. Sect leader Yi, I will take my leave first. Yarsheng released Lin Wuqian's big hand and said respectfully. Saintess Yar, the news of you obtaining 2 pills must not be leaked. Otherwise, I will not be able to explain it to the other holy lands. Yi Qinghan hurriedly said. Yarsheng was naturally not a fool and nodded repeatedly. Then you go ahead and wait for a while. I will say a few words to Wuqian and let him leave with you. Yi Qinghan said calmly. Yarsheng smiled slightly and quickly left. Here, only Yi Qinghan and Lin Wuqian were left. Yi Qinghan waved his hand and handed the immortal medicine and wooden sword to Lin Wuqian, then said in a deep voice, When you get out of the shrouding sky's secret realm, quickly take the people of the crazy sect to meet with Qinglian. She is the woman who took me away last time. She is waiting for you outside. Lin Wuqian saw Yi Qinghan's dignified expression and immediately asked, Where are you going? Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly and said, I promised the holy lands of the central earth and the sky-reaching sect that I would give them a portion of the eternal pills. If we take the immortal medicine, they will definitely not allow it. I can only stay here as a hostage. Ah! Master, how can I let you be a hostage? You take the immortal medicine and wooden sword to Senior Qinglian. I will be a hostage. Lin Wuqian suddenly said excitedly. Yi Qinghan slapped Lin Wuqian on the back of his head and said in a deep voice, Don't talk nonsense. If you go as a hostage, they will want it. Listen to me, take this Qinglian immortal medicine and wooden sword, find the people of the crazy sect, and quickly leave with Yarsheng. After leaving the secret realm, tell them that I am still inside. The other holy lands will not embarrass you. Chapter 1897. Lin Wuqian could only listen to Yi Qinghan. He had no choice but to take the wooden sword and immortal elixir, meet up with Yarsheng, and leave side by side. Yi Qinghan watched the two leave with a smile on the corner of his mouth. His long black hair swayed in the wind, and his battle robe fluttered in the wind. Da. Yi Qinghan put his hands behind his back, and his two fingers kept rubbing together. His vigorous face revealed a trace of majesty, but also a trace of cynicism. It was so evil that it made people's hair stand on end. If you want to get the immortal elixir, you have to pay a price. I'm not an honest person who can be bullied. Yi Qinghan exhaled a turbid breath and said to himself with an evil smile. The divine bird popped its head out and said flatteringly, "Master, is there a share of the immortal elixir for me?" "No." Yi Qinghan replied faintly. The divine bird, Yi Qinghan shrugged and said bluntly, "I'm not joking. You really don't have a share." The divine bird roared heartbreakingly, "I'm a loyal divine pet, handsome and dignified. For my master, I'm loyal and righteous. Who doesn't know the value of this divine bird? But now, I don't even have a share of the immortal elixir. How pitiful." Yi Qinghan curled his lips, glared at it fiercely, and said, "Do you think this father doesn't want to leave you a share? There are a total of 9 eternal elixirs. In the end, our crazy sect will only have 2. Who do you think we should give these 2 to? Won't you go back on your word?" The divine bird cried out, aggrieved. "Pa!" Yi Qinghan slapped the divine bird and said angrily, "If you have the guts, go back on your word with the sacred master of the Central Earth Holy Empire. Do you think I've lived for too long? War clan. Hell, Sua Shuguang's share, go back on it." The divine bird said in a serious tone. Yi Qinghan clutched his forehead in pain. He felt an inexplicable sense of helplessness when talking to the divine bird. "Sigh, I'd better think of a way to get some benefits. I can't get away with this unless I want to die." Yi Qinghan shook his head and slowly walked off into the distance. Inside the secret realm, it was a complete mess. Blood flowed like a river, and it would take tens of thousands of years to recover. A general success was built on the bones of 10,000 soldiers. However, for a king to appear, how many invincible experts in the same level had to be sacrificed? If these corpses were placed in a small place, they could be called a king, and become a feudal lord. Unfortunately, after they died, no one buried them, and their corpses lay in the wilderness. Yi Qinghan stepped on the corpses and did not do anything useless. Only the heavens knew how many people had died here. If he were to bury them all, he would not be able to complete the task even after a few hundred years. Along the way, Yi Qinghan was absent-minded. When he came across divine medicines, he would take them all away. Just like that, he walked leisurely. The group of people from the crazy sect had already left them behind by more than 10 years. There were also some small sects that did not obtain too many resources. They were still unwilling to leave and were bitterly searching for divine medicines. Yi Qinghan looked at the group of young people who were busy under the leadership of a lower realm cultivator. The corner of his mouth revealed a pure smile. Once upon a time, he was also working hard like these ordinary people. When he obtained a treasure, he would be extremely happy. Sigh, the further you go, the more you see, and the more unsatisfied you are. In fact, as a mortal, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have simple birth, old age, illness, and death. Yi Qinghan said quietly. The practitioners from the small sects looked nervously at Yi Qinghan, afraid that he would suddenly attack. Yi Qinghan smiled knowingly and nodded to indicate that they did not need to be nervous. Then, he quickly left. The group of young people looked enviously at Yi Qinghan. Their eyes were full of envy and expectation. They whispered to each other. The female practitioners were even more exaggerated. Their eyes were full of little stars. They could not wait to follow in his footsteps and reach the peak. Outside the secret territory, Lin Wuqian and Ye Sheng walked together. A group of people quickly passed through the crowd. Xia Jiulong and the others stared at Lin Wuqian. As Yi Qinghan said, Lin Wuqian had indeed entered the middle realm. Moreover, he was obviously stronger than the others. Including Xia Yunxue and the 3 godsons of the sky-reaching school. I really underestimated this group of people from the crazy sect. They are really abnormal. Xia Jiulong's fingertips trembled slightly. He stared at Lin Wuqian's back. Seeing that he was walking together with Ye Sheng and that their relationship was not that simple, a cold light flashed in his eyes. He was somewhat dissatisfied. Everyone in the world knew that the battle between the East and the West had been brought to the surface. The representative of the East was the Central Earth Holy Empire, and the representative of the West was naturally the Holy Land of Oshi. Didn't this guy have a grudge against the Holy Land of Oshi? Why is he colluding with the saintess of the Holy Land of Oshi? Xia Jiulong frowned and muttered to himself. At this moment, Moz of the Hell stopped Lin Wuqian and said in a deep voice, "Where is Yi Qinghan? My master is behind. If you have something to say, please wait for him to come out." Lin Wuqian would not tell anyone that he had the celestial elixir. Even Ye Xing did not know. The group of people from the crazy sect was very strong. Their fighting spirit was not inferior to that of the war tribe. Under the leadership of Ye Sheng, they quickly rushed out of the secret territory as if they were fleeing. The other holy lands and powerful sects did not chase after the group of people from the crazy sect. Their goal was the celestial elixir. Yi Qinghan was the leader of the crazy sect. The celestial elixir must be in the hands of Yi Qinghan. They might not be able to snatch it inside the secret territory, but it would be different outside the secret territory. At this moment it was obvious that the other sects and holy lands were ready to snatch it. The people of the 100 great clans were slowly joining forces to snatch the celestial elixir. The saints and saintesses of the various holy lands walked out of the secret territory one after another. Some of their wounds had not healed yet. They were covered in blood and looked miserable. The holy land of Oshi brought the scepter of power in. This is against the rules. The Arhat was flustered and exasperated. He ran out and said angrily, "Whoosh!" This instantly angered the saints of the other holy lands. They finally found an excuse for themselves. It was as if they could get the celestial elixir if Ye Sheng did not bring the scepter of power in. When Xia Jiulong heard this, he was furious. This group of holy lands and powerful sects did not allow him to enter the secret territory, but the holy land of Oshi had brought the eternal sacred weapon in. Ye Sheng. Stop right there. Oshi Holy Land, you must give me an explanation today. Xia Jiulong was angry. Heaven and earth trembled, and the arcane laws in the surroundings went out of control. The wind and clouds changed, and a tragic melody roared. The faces of the upper realm experts changed. As the saying goes, when the monarch is angry, the mountains and rivers flow in reverse, and corpses are everywhere. If Xia Jiulong was really angry, today's matter would not be so easy to resolve. Aster stepped forward and said coldly, "Xia Jiulong, everyone only said that the middle realm experts were not allowed to enter, but they did not say that the eternal sacred weapon was not allowed. If you have the ability, bring your eternal sacred weapon in, but do you dare? If the eternal sacred weapon is lost, do you have the qualifications to take responsibility as a crown prince?" Ye waved his hand and motioned for Lin Wuqian to leave first. He slowly turned around and said indifferently, "Crown Prince Xia, although I brought the sacred weapon into the secret territory, I did not obtain the celestial elixir. Why are you angry at me?" Chapter 1898. Ye Saint was neither servile nor overbearing. Although there was a big gap between him and Xia Jiulong, he had the eternal sacred artifact, the Staff of Power, and a high-level bloodline. He might not lose to Xia Jiulong in a real fight. Xia Jiulong's face became cold, which made the upper-level experts tremble in fear. Xia Jiulong was the most likely person to become the next eternal sovereign. His advancement to the eternal sovereign realm was already set in stone. Once he got angry, everyone had to retreat. Ye Saint's golden eyes flashed with light, and he did not retreat. Xia Jiulong did not want to complicate matters, so he could only let Ye Saint leave. At this moment, Lin Wuqian carried the wooden sword and the immortal herb. He did not dare to stay here for long. He quickly left the crowd with the people of the insane sect and went straight to the periphery. As long as he met up with Green Lotus Sword Immortal, no one would be able to snatch the immortal herb. Now, except for the people of the Oshi sacred ground, no other sacred ground experts left. They were all waiting silently. Everyone knew that the immortal herb was in the hands of Yi Qinghan. As long as they killed Yi Qinghan, they would have a chance to snatch the immortal herb. Xia Yunxue hurried to Xia Jiulong's side and respectfully transmitted her voice, "Imperial uncle, Yi Qinghan has a wooden sword in his hand that can contend with the staff of power." Hearing this, Xia Jiulong's eyes shone brightly, and the surrounding aura stagnated. At the same time, the three godsons of the sky-reaching cult also transmitted their voices to the three deans. The rest of the sacred ground's holy sons also transmitted the wooden sword in Yi Qinghan's hand to their leader's sea of consciousness. At this moment, everyone was even more reluctant to leave. Something that could contend with the staff of power must be an eternal sacred artifact. Snatch the immortal herb and the eternal sacred artifact. Where is Yi Qinghan now? Why hasn't he appeared yet? Xia Jiulong waited for a long time and asked in a deep voice. "Imperial uncle, he is still inside. He should be coming out soon." Xia Yunxue immediately replied. Xia Jiulong thought for a moment and said to Xia Yunxue, "Take the 9 mansions and bring the people of the insane sect here. They are not allowed to leave for the time being." Yes. Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansions were equivalent to 10 holy sons. Once they joined forces, the 3 godsons, the Arhat, and Zhang Jiuxiao would not be their opponents. They rushed straight in the direction of Kuang Zong's departure. But at this moment, Lin Wutian had already sped up with the rest of the crazy sect, shuttling through the cliffs and valleys, quickly disappearing from the periphery of the secret territory. A moment later, the Green Lotus Sword deity appeared in front of everyone from the Kuang sect. Without much explanation, he swept everyone away without waiting for Yi Qinghan. Xia Yunxue led the 9 mansions to the periphery, but she could no longer find the whereabouts of Kuang Zong. In the end, she could only return resentfully. Back at the entrance of the secret territory, Xia Yunxue bowed and said, "Royal uncle, the group of people from the crazy sect have disappeared. We can't find any trace of them." Xia Jiulong's dragon robes fluttered in the wind as his aura suppressed the heavens. Although his aura seemed restrained, Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansion lords felt as if the heavens were collapsing around them. They couldn't even straighten their backs. Although Xia Jiulong was at the peak of the middle level, only a minor realm higher than these holy sons, these people knew that even if the 9 mansion lords and Xia Yunxue joined forces, they still wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike from Xia Jiulong. The gap between them was just that huge. "You dare to play tricks with this prince? Yi Qinghan, I'm afraid you don't have the ability." Xia Jiulong snorted and continued to wait. There was still 100 years before the secret territory's entrance closed. Small sects continued to come out one after another, but they still couldn't find any trace of Yi Qinghan. Everyone was burning with anxiety. "This bastard, does he want to die in there?" A powerful upper-level bounty hunter scolded angrily. The old monk of the blessed Buddha temple didn't move and said indifferently, "Amitba, fellow Taoist, why are you in such a hurry? Since Sage Yar said that the immortal herb is in Yi Qinghan's hands, then it must be in his hands. He can hide for a while, but he can't hide forever." The 3 deans of the sky-reaching school were calm as usual. They waited calmly. It was rare for them to be this calm. At this moment, no one was more nervous than Demon Sovereign Fazhen. He knew best that once Yi Qinghan appeared, there would be a storm of blood. Yi Qinghan's life would collapse in an instant. Even Xia Jiulong wouldn't give him a chance to speak. "Sai, I'd rather you cultivate bitterly in the secret territory for 100,000 years. As long as you can endure the loneliness, at least you can keep your life." Demon Sovereign Fazhen clenched his iron fists and secretly prayed. While the 3,000 sects, 100 clans, and 21 holy lands were anxiously waiting outside, Yi Qinghan didn't seem to have any intention of going out. He was strolling around the secret territory. Under the guidance of the divine bird and the gold-devouring toad, he searched everywhere for treasures while humming a little tune. How long until the secret territory closes? Yi Qinghan curiously asked the divine bird. The divine bird was still unhappy. Such a good immortal herb, yet it didn't have a share. How could it face Yi Qinghan with a good face? I don't know, don't ask me. The divine bird unhappily threw out a sentence. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He didn't expect the divine bird to have a temper, and it lasted for such a long time. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore and could only gently persuade it, "Great divine bird, I promise that as long as you advance to the complete upper level, even if I have to steal or rob, I'll get you an immortal pill. How about it?" The divine bird glared at Yi Qinghan and said firmly, "Swear that if you can't do it, you'll be impotent for the rest of your life. Forever." Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fists and almost punched it. This bastard was too vicious. "You're lying to me." The divine bird snorted. Hiss hiss hiss. Yi Qinghan took a few deep breaths and calmed his emotions. He raised his hand and swore, "I swear that when the divine bird reaches the complete upper level, I'll get it an immortal pill. If I can't do it, I'll be impotent for the rest of my life." When the divine bird heard this, it immediately took advantage of the situation and said with a flattering smile, "Boss, look at how serious you are. I'm just teasing you." Huff huff huff. Yi Qinghan was so angry that his face turned red and he breathed out a few mouthfuls of anger. "Master, let's not stay here. It's only a few months before the entrance closes. If we don't go out, we'll have to stay here for 100,000 years. The divine bird quickly diverted his attention and reminded him. Yi Qinghan didn't have time to be angry. He began to move forward quickly and went straight to the entrance of the secret realm. At this moment, even the 3 deans of the sky-reaching cult had lost their patience. The old monks of the blessed Buddha temple couldn't meditate anymore. They had wasted 100 years in vain. Yi Qinghan seemed like he wouldn't come out. They hadn't even seen his shadow until now. Crack. Xia Jiulong clenched his fists and looked at the sparkling entrance. He really wanted to go in and beat up Yi Qinghan, but the entrance was about to close. Once it closed, it would have to wait for 100,000 years before it could open again. This was because this was the rule set by all the eternal sovereigns. No one could change it. At this moment, Lord Fozhen heaved a sigh of relief. But before he could feel happy, a figure appeared out of thin air and landed in front of everyone. His frivolous face carried a faint evil smile. He had a dignified appearance and a tall and sturdy figure. He stood in front of everyone like a javelin. His vigorous face was like jade, and he was definitely a dragon among men. This person was Yi Qinghan. "The immortal pill isn't in my hands," Yi Qinghan said slowly without waiting for anyone to make a move. Chapter 1899. The immortal elixir is not with me. A single sentence was melodious and powerful, filling the surroundings. The overlords couldn't release the divine energy they had just mustered. They almost suffocated themselves to death, and at this moment, their faces and ears were all red. Xia Jiulong's clenched fists slowly loosened. Looking at Yi Qinghan's calm face, he really wanted to beat him up. "You tricked me," Xia Jiulong said coldly. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Jiulong, the 3 courtyards, and the upper-level experts of the sky-reaching school and shrugged. "How can I say that I tricked you, seniors? You are all overlords of the sacred grounds, existences that can sweep through 10 directions. I'm just the sect master of the proud school. How dare I trick you? Where is the immortal elixir?" The head of the Jia courtyard of the sky-reaching school asked curiously. "It's in the hands of my disciple. But don't even think about the celestial elixir. I've promised all the holy lands that I'll give one to each of them, and I'll keep my word. The celestial elixir has already been delivered to a cultivator. She will help me refine the celestial elixir. Once the refinement is complete, Guangzong will personally deliver it to you. Yi Qinghan promised 7 sacred grounds. He looked at the eternal sword Dao sacred ground and couldn't help but shrug. He let out a turbid breath. It turned out that he underestimated one immortal elixir. If the eternal sword Dao sacred ground was included, the proud school would only have one immortal elixir left. Amitba. Yi Qinghan, did you not include the blessed Buddha temple in your plan? The immortal Buddha of the blessed Buddha temple asked in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan gently stroked his head and smiled bitterly. Seniors, all the holy lands, sects, and clans, please give up on the eternal immortal pills. I'll be honest with you. The holy land of the sword Dao will get 1, the holy empire of the central earth will get 1, the sky-piercing church will get 1, the war clan will get 1, the hell Dao holy land will get 1, the holy land of the central earth will get 1, the sky-piercing church will get 1, the war clan will get 1, the hell Dao holy land will get 1, the holy land of the central earth will get 1, the sky-piercing church will get 1, the war clan will get 1, the hell Dao holy land will get 1. The Western Holy Land will get 1, and the number 1 rogue cultivator, Shuguang will get 1. Yi Qinghan lied. Blue Lotus naturally wouldn't be interested in the so-called immortal elixir, but the Oshi sacred ground had 2. However, if Yar Sheng were to marry Lin Wutian, it would be equivalent to the Guangzong getting both of them. At this moment, Blessed Buddha Temple was the angriest. Yi Qinghan had divided everyone except for Blessed Buddha Temple. This grudge was formed. Yi Qinghan looked at the greed and desire in the eyes of the hundreds of powerful forces and shrugged. I'm not a greedy person. There are a total of 9 immortal pills. I've given out 8, and the insane sect only has 1. I think everyone should be satisfied. After saying that, Yi Qinghan looked at the 3 deans of the Transcending Heaven Church in Xiajiulong. It seemed that he was implying that there was nothing he could do if they weren't satisfied. Now that Yi Qinghan was in his possession, his efforts to take care of Yi Qinghan were not in vain. He declared proudly, Sect Master Yi, from now on, heaven-suppressing prefecture city belongs to the arrogant sect. Whoever dares to attack the city will be attacking the eternal sword Dao sacred ground. I promise to fight back with all my might. Ha ha ha, I'm relieved to hear that. Yi Qinghan laughed. Humph. Xia Jilong snorted from his nostrils and said coldly, since the celestial elixir has been taken away by your disciple, you will come with me to the Holy Empire. After you have distributed the celestial elixir to everyone, you can return to the insane sect. The battle race, Transcending Heaven Church, Hell, and the other sacred grounds nodded. They were clearly afraid that Yi Qinghan would take the immortal pills for himself. Then who will be responsible for the safety of the insane sect? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked. Before you return to the insane sect, I will be responsible for it. Whoever dares to attack the insane sect will be attacking the Holy Empire. No matter who it is, as long as I find out who it is, I will lead the 9 lords to flatten them. Xia Jiulong replied firmly. Count my battle clan in on this promise. Count the Transcending Heaven Church in. Hell also promises. Whoever offends the insane sect will be offended by hell. No matter how far away they are, they will be killed. The Sword Dao sacred ground will have to promise as well. After all, the insane sect is part of the Sword Dao eternal sacred ground. In an instant, the 5 sacred grounds announced that they would protect the insane sect. The Blessed Buddha Temple's monks' faces changed and they all left. Yi Qinghan smiled but did not say anything. He knew that his plan was complete. Shuguang looked at Yi Qinghan, cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Sect Master Yi. I will stay in the insane sect for the time being. Whoever offends the insane sect will be offending me. Yi Qinghan nodded and smiled. Zhuo Shuguang quickly left and headed south towards the heaven-suppressing prefecture city. Yi Qinghan looked at Wen Su, bowed, and said, "Senior, please release Senior Fazhen. After all, the Kuang sect needs a guardian. I will definitely not go back on my word for your elixir." Wen Su smiled indifferently. He was confident that Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to renege on his promise. With a wave of his hand, he removed the restriction on Lord Fazhen. Lord Fazhen nodded at Yi Qinghan before leaving swiftly. After everything was settled, Xia Jiulong quickly took out the flying dragon ship, and the experts of the Central Earth Saint Empire started assembling the other dragon ships. Soon, a gigantic flying dragon ship appeared in front of everyone, looking majestic and magnificent. Now that Yi Qinghan had been taken away by Xia Jiulong, the other holy lands and powerful sects could only watch and not do anything. If they wanted to take Yi Qinghan away, it would be equivalent to offending the holy empires of the Central Plains. Damn it, no wonder the Oshi sacred ground left without saying a word. They had already reached a consensus. The leader of the bounty hunters scolded. Who cares about promises in the face of benefits? The experts of the other sacred grounds sneered. They had lost a lot of people, but they did not get the immortal herbs. Who would be willing to accept this? The other sacred grounds left with a stomach full of resentment. They were all thinking about how to snatch the immortal herbs from Zhuo Shuguang and the insane sect. On the flying dragon ship, Yi Qinghan was leisurely sitting on a chair, looking at the majestic dragon ship flying in the sky. He was very envious. If the insane sect could also get a flying dragon ship, it would be great. How do you think these dragon ships can fly? Yi Qinghan pulled out the divine bird and asked curiously. The divine bird's mouth was full of saliva as it said, "What a treasure. If we could also get one, it would be so cool." The 9 great immortal mansions of the Saint Empire also had dragon ships, hanging on the left and right sides like wings. In fact, they were guarding the dragon ship in the center. There were many experts on the dragon ship. Unless an eternal expert came, who would dare to invade? Xia Jiulong gently shook his feather fan and slowly walked over. His dragon robe fluttered in the wind. His temperament was otherworldly, like the son of an immortal. Yi Qinghan, you planned this from the beginning. You wanted to use yourself as a hostage and let the disciples send the immortal herbs away. Xia Jiulong stared at Yi Qinghan. It was the first time he saw a young man who dared to play tricks on him. Yi Qinghan shrugged and did not even bother to get up. He said lazily, when dealing with the sacred grounds, if I didn't pay attention, I'm afraid I would have died outside the secret realm. Isn't that right, Crown Prince? The corner of Xia Jiulong's mouth twitched, but he did not refute. As Yi Qinghan said, if the immortal herbs were in Yi Qinghan's hands, he would not allow the immortal herbs to be shared. The Saint Empire would have to monopolize it. Unfortunately, he miscalculated. He was too confident in himself and underestimated Yi Qinghan. Chapter 1900. Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed like lightning as he looked at Yi Qinghan. His heart was on guard as if he was a great enemy. However, Xia Jiulong did not say anything. He suppressed the dissatisfaction and anger in his heart, ready to explode at any time. The dragon boat soared into the sky, diving into the clouds. Beautiful mountains and rivers entered Yi Qinghan's eyes. Yi Qinghan sat at a corner of the dragon boat and looked down. He couldn't help but sigh. Such mountains and rivers were truly coveted. The vast and prosperous East actually belonged to the Central Plains Holy Empire. A single holy empire controlled the entire East. The divine bird looked at the misty mountains and rivers. It was incomparably excited and coveted. It could not wait to snatch it over. Great Crown Prince, this divine bird has many merits. Please grant me a manner and let me serve you. The divine bird looked at Xia Jiulong and said flatteringly. When Yi Qinghan heard this, he almost fainted from anger. This bastard really betrayed him. The divine bird made a solemn vow. Unfortunately, Xia Jiulong did not like it. Instead, he glanced at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, "If your master wants to rely on this crown prince, granting him a manor is not a problem." When the divine bird heard this, it was immediately discouraged. With Yi Qinghan's stubborn temper, he was willing to do anything but be a servant. Forget it, forget it. This divine bird does not yearn for a manor. The divine bird shook its head. Yi Qinghan sneered and did not reply. Xia Jiulong coldly looked at Yi Qinghan. His eyes flashed with a cold light. As the saying goes, half a sentence is like accompanying a tiger. As the crown prince, he was equivalent to half a king. Once he was angered, blood would flow for thousands of miles. Whoosh! The dragon boat danced in the air. It was as if a dragon was treading on heaven and earth. After flying for 3 months, the dragon boat's speed exceeded that of an upper-level cultivator. However, it was as if it was traveling on flat ground. Magnificent cities appeared before Yi Qinghan's eyes. They intertwined to form a huge immortal manor. And there were as many as 9 such mansions in the Central Plains Holy Empire. Yi Qinghan's heart surged as he watched, his blood boiling. Who knew how powerful a king would be needed to conquer such a magnificent country? Half a year later, an even more magnificent city appeared in everyone's line of sight. Even from 1,000 miles away, the city walls were towering, and the dragon banners were swaying in the wind. It was as if an immortal spirit was high and mighty. Yi Qinghan stood up and held the handle of the dragon boat, his eyes flashing. This was the capital city of the Holy Empire of the Central Plains. It covered an area of 8,000 li, and every piece of land was a blessed land. The 4 city gates in the north, south, east, and west were over 10 zhang tall, exuding the vicissitudes of time. It was unknown how many years it had taken to reach this step. The capital was surrounded by 9 cities. Each city was like a roaming dragon, as if 9 dragons were on a pilgrimage. Yi Qinghan felt his blood boil as if it was on fire. Dong 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 dong. Yi Qinghan's heart was beating wildly, and his face was red. Perhaps only he could understand the emotions in his eyes. This was because he wanted to build a dynasty that could surpass the Holy Empire, an immortal dynasty. Oh my God, what a big city! There are so many treasures inside. The divine bird stood on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, as if it was a mountain villager who had never seen the world. No, it and Yi Qinghan were facing such a city. They were truly mountain villager. Da. Xia Jiulong appeared behind Yi Qinghan once again and said in a dignified voice, "Yi Qinghan, this prince will give you one more chance. Submit to me and I'll give you a manor." "Lord Crown Prince, I'm not interested. I'm used to being idle. I'd rather be an idle little sect master than a slave for eternity," Yi Qinghan lightly said. Xia Jiulong's lips curled up, and he indifferently said, "You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Do you know the consequences of rejecting this prince?" Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Jiulong and frowned, "Lord Crown Prince, we are partners. Cooperation requires mutual consent. How can you threaten me like this?" "Ha ha ha ha," Xia Jiulong's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness. He seemed to be laughing in a forthright manner, but the cold glint in his eyes was frightening. Boom! The flying dragon boat landed at the western gate of the city. The western gate was filled with civil and military officials, noble families, and high-ranking officials. "Welcome back, Your Highness." All the spirits neatly knelt on the ground respectfully to welcome Xia Jiulong. Hua! Tens of thousands of experts stepped out of the 9 smaller flying dragon boats. They were the strongest of the younger generation in the 9 immortal mansions. They were all handsome like jade, and their auras were like rainbows. They lined up neatly on both sides to welcome Xia Jiulong on the main dragon boat. Xia Jiulong stepped into the clouds from the dragon boat onto the main road. His dragon robe danced in the wind, and his footsteps echoed the rhythm of the mountains and rivers. Xia Jiulong flicked his sleeves and said, "Men, capture Yi Qinghan. Lock him up and send him to the heaven-sealing prison." Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansions were shocked. They knew best what kind of person was locked up in the heaven-sealing prison. Would Yi Qinghan still be alive after being sent there? If he died, would they still be able to get the immortal pill back? Xia Yunxue hurriedly knelt on one knee and respectfully reminded, "Lord Crown Prince, please reconsider. We haven't gotten the immortal pill yet, Your Highness, please reconsider." The 9 mansions all knelt and begged. They didn't want Yi Qinghan to die. It wasn't because they were friends with Yi Qinghan, but because they all had a chance to get the immortal pill. If Yi Qinghan died, they would have no chance at all. Xia Jiulong's vigorous face was filled with majesty. His eyes shone with a frightening light. His voice was as loud as a bell as he coldly said, "Are you going to defy this emperor's orders? Your nephew doesn't dare. Your subordinate doesn't dare." Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansions immediately became terrified and respectfully replied. Yi Qinghan stood on the dragon boat and stared at Xia Jiulong. He didn't expect him to not give him any face and directly throw him into prison. This was quite shocking. As expected of the future emperor of a country. You're quite decisive in your actions. Yi Qinghan didn't think about escaping or resisting. He didn't have any hope at the gates of the capital. Instead, he would suffer even more. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stepped off the dragon boat. His white robe was like snow, and his handsome face shone with divine light. He was definitely one of the most handsome men in the world. At this moment, he was neither servile nor overbearing. He looked at Xia Jiulong and lightly said, "Your Highness, isn't it a bit inappropriate to treat a guest like this?" "Guest? You think too highly of yourself." Xia Jiulong was extremely domineering. He glanced at the mansions and Xia Yunxue and said in a deep voice, "Why aren't you moving? Do you want this emperor to do it himself?" Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The 9 mansions, as well as Xia Yunxue, quickly took out the shackles on their legs and hands. They were made of special materials and were specially made to seal the legs and hands of middle-level cultivators. Only upper-level cultivators could destroy them. The chains dragged on the ground, making ear-piercing sounds. The outside of the city gates was completely silent. "Sect Master Yi, please cooperate with us. You won't be able to escape," Xia Yunxue said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan slightly clenched his fists. He raised his hands and placed them in front of Xia Yunxue. He didn't have any intention of resisting. Ka ka ka. The 9 prefectures' Lord Manor's shackles were placed on Yi Qinghan's arms and ankles. Once the shackles were closed, Yi Qinghan's divine power was cut off, making it impossible for him to sense any profound laws. Chapter 1901. The chains were 5 meters long and weighed tens of thousands of pounds. Even Yi Qinghan's body felt extremely heavy. Yi Qinghan frowned and stared at Xia Jiulong. The two looked at each other, but Xia Jiulong spoke in an overbearing manner, "Yi Qinghan, don't think that you can do whatever you want in front of this emperor just because you have some ability. Those who dare to trick this emperor have not been born yet. Today, I will teach you a lesson. When you think it through, tell the jailers to come and inform me. If you don't, then die in the heaven-sealing prison. Quan Zone will not be able to deny my elixir." What a show of strength! Other than Yi Qinghan, everyone else was silent. No one dared to go against Xia Jiulong's will. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists and stared at Xia Jiulong with narrowed eyes. His lips curled into a cold smile, but he did not try to anger Xia Jiulong at this time. However, some people thought that Yi Qinghan was blaspheming the crown prince of the Central Earth Holy Empire. They rushed up to attack. Like a hawk pouncing on a rabbit, their large hands were already in front of Yi Qinghan. Although Yi Qinghan was bound by chains, he moved like a cunning rabbit. He clasped his hands together and caught the incoming large hands. With a fierce push, the incoming person was forced to kneel on the ground. Crack! Yi Qinghan exerted force and broke the person's arms. He then raised his leg and kicked the person's chest, sending him flying hundreds of meters away. Boom! The lower realm guard's chest caved in and his bones were broken. He almost vomited out his organs. His face twisted as he fainted on the spot. Your Highness, if you want to humiliate me, at least you have to do it yourself. Otherwise, it won't be me, it will be you. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Xia Jiulong's face was expressionless. He flicked his sleeves and left. Like a moon surrounded by stars, a large group of civil and military officials escorted him into the city. Outside the city, only Xia Yunxue and the 9 lords were holding Yi Qinghan captive. Xia Yunxue stared at Yi Qinghan and snorted, Yi Qinghan, in my holy empire, even eternal sovereigns have to keep a low profile. Don't be too arrogant. Come with me, I'll send you to the heaven-sealing prison. If you regret it now, it's not too late. Yi Qinghan exhaled and said indifferently, I would like to see the heaven-sealing prison. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Xia Yunxue angrily shouted. She pulled on one of the chains while the 9 prefectures each pulled on the other 9 chains. They firmly controlled Yi Qinghan's body, fearing that his body was invincible and would directly bind them. To have 10 saint-level powerhouses detain Yi Qinghan was an honor for Yi Qinghan. Who else in the world would receive such treatment? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The chains dragged on the ground, creating an ear-piercing sound. The group quickly entered the capital. The capital was flourishing, and experts were as common as clouds. Seeing Xia Yunxue and the 9 prefectures detain someone, they couldn't help but be shocked. After seeing Yi Qinghan's face, they were even more shocked. He was so young and wasn't a peak king. Why would the 9 prefectures and Xia Yunxue personally detain him? Yi Qinghan's heart burned with anger. When he came here as a hostage, he didn't expect Xia Jiulong to treat him like this. It seemed that Xia Jiulong didn't just want the eternal immortal pill, but also the insane sects. Whoosh! The chain still made an ear-piercing sound, but Xia Yunxue turned and entered a desolate area. There were powerful guards all around, and rows of guards stretched out for thousands of meters. Xia Yunxue sped up. The 9 prefectures were practically dragging Yi Qinghan forward. After about an hour, the number of guards increased significantly. In front of them appeared a place similar to the entrance of the heaven-shrouding secret realm. It was covered in light, and inside the light was a small secret realm. By the Crown Prince's imperial uncle's order, take this person into the heaven-sealing prison and open it, Xia Yunxue said. The guard looked at Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansion lord, then looked at Yi Qinghan. He didn't hesitate. Xia Yunxue and the 9 mansion lord had extremely high statuses, so there definitely wouldn't be any problems. He waved his hand and removed the seal at the entrance, causing a crack to appear. Whoosh! The 10 experts dragged Yi Qinghan into the heaven-sealing prison, and the crack closed immediately. Inside the prison, it was a desolate place. There were mountains everywhere, volcanoes erupting, and tens of thousands of intertwining ravines. They were all bottomless cliffs, and if one fell, they would die without a doubt. Yi Qinghan looked at the so-called heaven-sealing prison, and only felt a sense of desolation and the beginning of the Great Tao. It was a feeling that no human had ever set foot in. He couldn't see the end of it. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan let out a breath of turbid air. Before he had time to look around himself, he was brought into the air by the 10 supremes, and went straight inside. One after another, large camps appeared before their eyes. One after another, minds were being mined. There was no telling how many experts were being held captive, and there was actually no lack of upper-level supreme martial artists. However, This group of people were all shackled, and there was a fundamental difference between them and the others. Yi Qinghan looked at the group of people below. The middle supremes didn't have the qualifications to be shackled, and only the upper supremes were shackled. Boom! The 10 of them brought Yi Qinghan to the center of a vein of ore, which immediately alerted the guards there. The guard was a middle-aged man, and his cultivation was at the peak of the middle supremes. His body emitted a bloody and evil aura, and he should be an expert who had been on the battlefield for a long time, and had killed countless people. Meng Fong greets your highness, the 9 prefectures lord. The middle-aged man bowed slightly, and cupped his fists in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. General Meng Fong, I'll leave this person to you. As long as he doesn't die, you can do whatever you want with him. Xia Yunxue said in a deep voice. Meng Fong looked at Yi Qinghan, raised his eyebrows, and asked in a low voice, a mere lower supremes, is there a need to be shackled? Xia Yunxue replied, this is the Crown Prince's royal uncle's order. I'll leave him to you. If there's a problem, the royal uncle will interrogate you. After saying that, Xia Yunxue quickly left with the 9 prefectures lord. Around the camp, a group of strange gazes immediately looked over. There were prisoners and guards, but these people's gazes contained a trace of coldness, mockery, cruelty, and even excitement. Yi Qinghan was a bit alarmed. He found that the people here were all kings of the same realm, but their personalities were twisted, and their gazes were cold and ruthless. It should have been caused by long-term torture. Boom! Meng Fong suddenly gripped his spear and swept it horizontally, smashing it into Yi Qinghan's chest and sending him flying. Puff! Yi Qinghan's qi and blood surged, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He fiercely slammed into a withered mountain, and his consciousness was in so much pain that he almost fainted. Meng Fong said domineeringly, I don't care who you are. Since you're in the sealed sky prison and in my camp, you'd better behave. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death. Yi Qinghan fiercely shook his head, and drove away the dizziness. He opened his fierce eyes and stared at Meng Fong, and the tip of his tongue licked the blood at the corner of his mouth, revealing a cold smile. A mere middle supremes dares to show me who's boss. Yi Qinghan's hoarse voice was melodious and majestic, and spread into the distance. It made the surrounding prisoners excited, and they all grinned, as if they were waiting for a good show. Chapter 1902. Yi Qinghan stood up. Although he was attacked by Meng Fong, he was not seriously injured. Perhaps Meng Fong was worried that Yi Qinghan's physical body would not be able to withstand a strong attack, so he only used 20% of his strength. Meng Fong stared at Yi Qinghan and was angered by his words. He sneered, I don't care how powerful you are in the outside world. Here, I am the king. This is my camp, so you must abide by my rules. After Meng Fong finished speaking, he waved his hand. 4 soldiers carried a chair and placed it behind him. Hua! Meng Fong slowly sat down and scanned the surroundings. He said in a deep voice, teach the newcomer the rules. Those who attack will have an extra meal today. Roar! In an instant, the prisoners went crazy. It was as if they had been waiting for this sentence. They beat their chests and stamped their feet, ready to attack. Yi Qinghan looked at this group of people with disheveled hair and dirty faces. He did not know how long they had been imprisoned here. Only 2 old men were considered clean. However, both of them had special shackles on their hands and feet. This was also considered special. The upper level had shackles on their hands and feet. The middle level did not have any special shackles, but they were all very obedient. In this sealed sky prison, even the most arrogant person would be tortured until they lost their temper. Hua! Before Yi Qinghan could observe his surroundings, 7 to 8 lower-level prisoners surrounded him in an instant. This group of people had cruel smiles on their faces. It was as if their hearts were twisted and they enjoyed torturing people. Kid, let me teach you the rules. A middle-aged man with bronze skin and muscles all over his body said. He was 2 meters tall and his voice was deep like a large bell. Old Shah, don't beat him to death. It's rare that we have a newcomer in our camp. It's more fun to play with him. A skinny young man grinned evilly. That's right, that's right. Having a newcomer is our benefit. Everyone started to jeer. At this moment, Meng Fong leaned on his chair and said with a feminine expression, everyone, don't be anxious. Take it slow. Today and tomorrow are everyone's rest days. Beat him until he understands the rules and knows how to lower his head and admit his mistakes. This general will reward him handsomely. All right. The prisoners laughed in response. They did not seem to hate Meng Fong and the others. Yi Qinghan's hands and feet were shackled. No one looked at him as if he was a piece of meat. Yi Qinghan's white robes fluttered in the wind, giving him an indescribably otherworldly appearance. His deep eyes looked at the lower plane cultivators who had surrounded him. There was no emotion in his eyes, but judging from Meng Fong's attitude, it seemed that he would not rest until he beat Yi Qinghan into submission. Hua! The Divine Seal Chain. If he was weak in combat strength, how could he be personally escorted by the nines and the 9 prefects and a prince? And the Divine Sealed Chains. Was personally escorted by the 9 and 9 prefects and personally escorted to twos. To him was to be restrained twos. 2. This was was. Divine to be. To gods. Twos was. Twos. 2. To be. Bang. 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 The bare-chested man in the lead, Lao Sha, patted his chest, causing his muscles to tremble. He said proudly, all of you, step back. Today, I alone can make him kneel and submit to General Meng Fong. The other lower-level cultivators retreated. They stared at Yi Qinghan and Lao Sha. Their eyes were cold and cruel. Boom! Lao Sha's aura was like a rainbow. He gathered his divine power and attached it to his fist. The power of the earth flowed to his waist and gathered in his fist. He turned his fist and punched towards Yi Qinghan like a whirlpool. Yi Qinghan gently raised his right fist. His godly power was sealed, but his physical body could not be sealed. He stomped his feet on the ground and became one with heaven and earth. It was as if he was heaven and earth itself. Who could defeat heaven and earth? Bang! The 2 fists collided. Shockwaves swept up sand and dust. Bang! Bang! Crack! The sand and dust obscured everyone's vision. They heard someone hurriedly retreat. His footsteps crushed the mountain rocks. Then, there was the piercing sound of broken bones and a miserable scream. Thump, 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 the sound of a rapid heartbeat reverberated throughout the valley. Even Meng Fong sat up straight. He did not expect Lao Sha's punch to be so effective. Don't kill him. The higher-ups have ordered us not to kill him, Meng Fong said angrily. The dust settled, but the one lying in the pool of blood was not Yi Qinghan, but Lao Sha. Lao Sha was convulsing, blood staining his entire body. Yi Qinghan's white robes had turned the color of sand, but his face was still clean. Damn! Lao Sha has divine power. How did that guy beat Lao Sha without divine power? Someone exclaimed. Meng Fong frowned. He waved his hand and said, go and see how Lao Sha was injured. A powerful deputy general stepped forward and squatted in front of Lao Sha. He discovered that Lao Sha's arm was broken, but the worst was his chest. More than half of his ribs were broken, and there were clear footprints. It was clear that Yi Qinghan had kicked him with lightning speed. Hiss! Hiss! The lieutenant sucked in a breath of cold air. He brought Lao Sha closer to Meng Fong and said respectfully, General, Laosha's arm is broken, his elbow is dislocated, and 6 of his ribs are broken. Meng Fong stared at the calm Yi Qinghan and sneered, no wonder you were personally escorted here by the prince and the 9 prefectures. So you do have some skills. However, you dare to cause trouble in my tent. I'm afraid you're not strong enough. Anyone who can come to any of my ceiling sky prisons camps is an invincible king. However, even they have to kneel down and admit their mistakes. You are no exception. Yi Qinghan replied indifferently, I'm afraid General Meng will be disappointed. I know everything, but I don't know how to kneel down and admit my mistakes. There's no rush. I have plenty of time. Meng Fong was so angry that he laughed. He waved his hand and 5 rays of cold light shot out. Sabers, spears, staffs, and swords were inserted in the center. He said to the group of prisoners, it's been a long time since you've tasted the taste of weapons. Today, I'll satisfy you. Whoever beats him until he kneels down and begs for mercy will be heavily rewarded. If I'm satisfied, I'll even reduce his sentence by 30,000 years. When there's a great reward, there's always someone brave. I'll do it. Whoosh! A figure dashed over from the top of a mountain. He was as fast as lightning. He pulled out a divine sword and stabbed it towards Yi Qinghan. However, he was still a lower-level cultivator because the middle-level cultivator was still waiting. The harder Yi Qinghan was to deal with, the greater the temptation Meng Fong would release in the end. Whoosh! Boom! The lower-level cultivator's sword moved in all directions like a dragon soaring into the sky. His aura was like a rainbow as his sword intent wreaked havoc. He was definitely a supreme king amongst his peers. Whoosh! The chains danced in the air and blocked the divine sword. Yi Qinghan did not retreat at all. Instead, he forced the lower-level cultivator back several steps. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The chains wrapped around and bound the divine sword. With a backhand pull, Yi Qinghan pulled the young man's body in front of him. He lifted his leg and kicked the young man's wrist. Crack. Ah! The young man's wrist was broken and the sword in his hand flew out. Yi Qinghan grabbed it from the air and caught it in his palm. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan fiercely slashed at the chains. However, the chains were made of terrifying materials. Sparks flew everywhere. The divine sword was wrapped around the chains, but the chains did not move an inch. Ha ha ha, this is the God Seal chain. It can even suppress an upper-level cultivator. Do you think anyone can break free from it? Meng Fong laughed maniacally. Chapter 1903. Meng Fong laughed maniacally, causing everyone to laugh maniacally. Even the 2 low-profile old men with iron chains had a slight smile on their faces. Yi Qinghan looked at the divine sword in his hand and sneered. He actually grabbed the back of the sword with his big hand and exerted force, breaking the pseudo-saint artifact that was specially used for lower realm cultivators. Ding! Bang! The sword whistled, and its aura shook the galaxy. Boom! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and stabbed the broken sword into the mountain. He raised his head, and the corner of his mouth curled up. He looked very evil. Meng Fong's maniacal laughter subsided, and his face darkened. I don't understand your rules, and you better not make me understand them. I'm afraid you can't handle it, Yi Qinghan said calmly. In an instant, the valley became so quiet that even the sound of heartbeats could be heard clearly. Everyone stared at Yi Qinghan. Damn, what kind of perverted body is this? He didn't even use his divine power, and he actually broke a lower realm pseudo-saint artifact with just his body. Damn, where did this pervert come from? Hua! Those middle realm cultivators were originally calm, but at this moment, they couldn't help but stand up and look at Yi Qinghan from afar. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Meng Fong's firm eyes flashed with surprise as he stared at Yi Qinghan. He suddenly laughed and said in a hoarse voice, "How interesting. No wonder the Crown Prince personally gave the order, and the 9 mansion lords and His Highness personally escorted him. It turns out that he really is a perverted monster. However, this makes me even more excited. I'm the best at dealing with monsters. Which Middle Realm cultivator will go down and teach this reckless newcomer a lesson? As long as you don't kill him, I'll reward you with a 16-grade sacred pill and 115-grade sacred pills." Meng Fong glanced around and said in a deep voice. But moments later, no one stepped forward. Clearly, everyone knew that those in the lower realms did not have the qualifications to teach Yi Qinghan a lesson. If they did not take this opportunity to ask for a sky-high price, the next newcomer might not be as monstrous as Yi Qinghan. Meng Fong frowned as he looked at the group of powerful prisoners. They were all monstrous geniuses, but none of them were willing to help him. A cold light flashed in his eyes as the corners of his mouth curled up. He said in a low voice, "Those who help will be rewarded with 3 6th-grade divine elixirs and 105th-grade divine elixirs." This time, someone finally moved. 3 16th-grade divine pills were a fatal temptation to these middle-level cultivators because they did not even have storage rings here. If they were seriously injured, they would not have any pills to heal their injuries. They could only wait for death to come. "Give me a sword, I'll do it." At this moment, a middle-aged man with a bare upper body sat on a small hill. His pants were tattered, but his face was full of heroic spirit. His aura was restrained, and he looked like a volcano that was about to erupt. It was fine if he did not move, but when he did, it would be earth-shattering. Yi Qinghan looked at this person. He slowly stood up, and his aura suddenly soared into the sky. However, there was an obvious scar on his leg. It was a ghastly sight. Yi Qinghan did not know how long it had been since it had not healed yet. Whoosh! The man limped down the hill. His eyes were abnormally firm. Before entering the sealed sky prison, he was probably rich and noble. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth and looked at the man. He was shocked in his heart. How many experts are locked up in this sealed sky prison? This is just one of the camps, and there are close to 1,000 people. There are even 2 upper realm cultivators. What is this holy empire of the Central Earth trying to do? Torturing these invincible kings like this, could it be that they want to make them their slaves? Peng. A gust of wind swept over. The sword chi that cut through space woke Yi Qinghan up. Meng Fong actually threw out his sword, and it heavily pierced through the mountain rock in front of the man. "Feng Huang, as long as you cripple him and make him kneel down and beg for mercy, this general will give you wealth and glory. You will be my left and right hand." Meng Fong said sternly. Feng Huang was an expert from 30,000 years ago. He lost to Xia Jiulong in the final battle, but he was too arrogant to submit. Since then, he disappeared. There were no more legends about him in the martial world. Who would have thought that he would be captured and brought here? Feng Huang was tortured for 30,000 years. For 3 16th-grade Saint pills, he had no choice but to submit. He had already lost the demeanor of a king. Feng Huang pulled out his sword and sneered, "Are you worthy? Xia Jiulong is not. You and I each took what we needed. We owe each other 2 steps. Humph." Meng Fong slapped the chair and snorted. His eyes flashed with killing intent as he said coldly, "Feng Huang, don't you know what the consequences of being stubborn are? Back then, you were an emperor among men, and now, you're still fighting like a dog for a few pills. Now, as long as you submit to His Highness, the Crown Prince, you'll enjoy endless glory, splendor, wealth, and rank. Unfortunately, you refuse to do things the hard way. After so many years, everyone has seen that as long as you enter the heaven-sealing prison, no matter which camp you belong to, as long as you don't submit, you'll either die or go crazy. In the end, your corpse will be strewn across the wilderness." Feng Huang limped towards Yi Qinghan as if he didn't hear Meng Fang's words. He looked up at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "Brat, don't be stubborn. You can't take it. Kneel down and beg for mercy and I will spare you." Ha 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 ha, Yi Qinghan laughed out loud. He was laughing so hard that he was rocking back and forth. He pointed at Feng Huang and said, "Feng Huang, is it? Since you're so stubborn, you should know that people like us won't give in. Cut the crap. You're heavily injured, and I'm bound by the iron chains." Ding! Hua! Woo woo woo. The sword whistled through the sky. Feng Huang looked like a mortal walking, but once he exploded, he was so powerful. His sword swept across the sky like a rainbow, raising dust in all directions. Yi Qinghan brandished the iron chain in his hand like a howling cold wind. Boom! Pang! The chains collided with the divine sword. Sparks flew everywhere, but the divine sword did not break the chains. Pang pang pang! Yi Qinghan was hit hard. He kept retreating, crushing the mountain rocks. Every step he took left a footprint. Even if Yi Qinghan had godly force, he wouldn't be a match for an emperor, let alone one without godly force. Xiu xiu xiu. Feng Huang's sword was as fast as lightning, sweeping in all directions. Yi Qinghan could only retreat. He had no chance to resist. Yi Qinghan tied the chains around his arms and legs, blocking Feng Huang's attacks. His arms were almost broken, but the chains did not move at all. There were no signs of them breaking. Yi Qinghan frowned. His soul was operating at high speed, thinking of a way to break the chains. If he could not use his divine power, he would be crippled today. Divine bird, help me think of a way to break the chains. Yi Qinghan secretly roared. He wanted to contact the divine bird. But due to the suppression of divine power, the divine bird could only exist in the bloodline. It could not transform into its original body, nor could it speak. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. Seeing Feng Huang's sword move become more and more ruthless, he suddenly thought of a plan. Feng Huang and I alone cannot break the chains. But if we work together, we will have a chance. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. He grabbed the chains with both hands. The chains stretched taut and quickly collided with the divine sword. Hada! Yi Qinghan angrily roared. The veins on his arms bulged. He fiercely exerted his strength. Together with Feng Huang's sword, he actually broke the chains. Pang! Xiu! When the chains broke, Yi Qinghan's body flipped. The divine sword fell from his face and cut into the ground. Chapter 1904. The moment the chains broke, the profound mysteries were severed. It could no longer suppress Yi Qinghan, and his godly power instantly recovered. Boom! Yi Qinghan struck the ground with his palm, stirring up a cloud of dust. His body shot up into the sky, transforming into a dragon. Hua! Flames spread all around, burning the heavens. Yi Qinghan stood on a fire dragon, looking down at all directions. He stared at Meng Fang and said coldly, "Your rules do not include me. How long do you think this great sky-ceiling prison can trap me for? At most 100 years. Xia Jiulong will personally invite me out." Meng Fang stood up with a bang. A long spear appeared in his hand, and his aura soared. Hua! The camp was instantly surrounded by guards, and even some of the patrol envoys rushed over. A faintly discernible aura instantly enveloped Yi Qinghan. It was the aura of an upper realm cultivator. The great sky-ceiling prison, as its name implied, could seal the heavens. Once inside, no one could escape. Yi Qinghan sneered and said proudly, "I don't want to go out now. It's easy to send me in, but if you want me to go out, Xia Jiulong will have to personally invite me." "Who do you think you are?" Meng Fang asked coldly. Yi Qinghan laughed proudly, you don't believe me? Let's wait and see. Meng Fong stared at Yi Qinghan. He could not figure out Yi Qinghan's identity. He frowned and said to the deputy general beside him, "Go and find out who this person is. Come back and report to me after you find out the truth." "Yes, General." The deputy general beside Meng Fong left respectfully. Yi Qinghan stared at Meng Fong and said coldly, "I will pay you back 100-fold for that spear strike. Wait until you get out alive." Meng Fong's eyes were filled with killing intent. If Xia Jiulong had not instructed him to keep Yi Qinghan alive, there would not have been so much trouble. Now that Yi Qinghan had god power, he was no longer afraid of the middle realm cultivators. No matter how weak he was, he would not be beaten up. As for the two upper realm cultivators, they had their own pride and would not attack a lower realm cultivator. Yi Qinghan and Meng Fong were at loggerheads. Everyone was waiting. This was the only time a newcomer had not been taught a lesson. Instead, Yi Qinghan had taught him a lesson. This was something Meng Fong could not tolerate. However, Meng Fong was a cautious person. Before he could figure out Yi Qinghan's identity, he would not act rashly. Once he did, he would definitely flip this camp in a fit of rage. Yi Qinghan slowly dispersed his aura. That faintly discernible divine sense also dispersed, no longer observing him. Meng Fong's camp was still deathly silent. Meng Fong sat back in his chair and waited silently. At this moment, the divine bird jumped out and pretended to be brave. Its aura soared to the sky as it looked down at everyone and said, "You guys even dare to blaspheme this divine bird's great master. You guys really don't know the meaning of death." Meng Fong rolled his eyes. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to be so strong. Even his divine pet was so impudent. A little realm lord rookie actually dared to show off in front of a group of kings. Yi Qinghan shrugged and did not stop the divine bird. In this boring prison, it was good to have some fun. In any case, they would not stay here for long. Seeing that no one refuted, the divine bird immediately became smug and said proudly, "Who will submit to this divine bird? When Crown Prince Xia Jiulong brings us out, I will bring you guys out as well." The group of kings sneered. They felt that the divine bird and Yi Qinghan had gone crazy. Was there any power in this world that could make the Crown Prince of the Holy Empire, Crown Prince Xia Jiulong, feel fear? A bunch of brats with no brains. That's all you can achieve in this lifetime. Stay here for the rest of your life. The divine bird shook its head. It had a look of disappointment. Yi Qinghan also shook his head and looked around. Looking at the group of imprisoned kings, he wanted to subdue them. However, if Xia Jiulong could not subdue them, he would not be able to do it either. Emperor Feng dragged his tired and injured body and held the divine sword in his hand. His sharp eyes stared at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan shrugged and glanced at Feng Huang. With a wave of his hand, he took out a few level 16 healing pills and tossed them to Feng Huang. His storage ring wasn't taken away, so there were still quite a few pills inside. A few pills weren't a big deal, but the important thing was that there were two people he could use in the sealed the heavens prison. Emperor Feng waved his hand and took the pills. When he looked at the grade of the pills, he was shocked. Everyone was also shocked. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to have a storage ring. He did not even put a level 16 saint pill in his eyes and casually threw it to a stranger. Everyone's eyes were burning with passion. "Why are you helping me?" Emperor Feng frowned and asked Yi Qinghan. "Consider it as a reward for helping me open the chains. Don't worry, I don't need your help. These pills are nothing to me." Yi Qinghan said lightly. Feng Huang sucked in a deep breath and looked at the bloody wound on his leg. This was caused by Xia Jiulong. Without any pills, and the spiritual energy here was extremely scarce, even after so many years, not only had his injury not healed, it had actually worsened. Yi Qinghan's cultivation had been restricted by 60%. Otherwise, there was no way Yi Qinghan could have withstood his attacks. Many thanks. Emperor Feng said in a deep voice. If you trust me, then I'll stand guard for you. If you don't, then there's nothing I can do. Yi Qinghan shrugged. He found a rock and sat down, then looked around at the crowd with a bored expression. Emperor Feng had no other choice. With his leg blocked, he could not circulate his battle strength. If this continued, his cultivation would be crippled. Hua! Emperor Feng stabbed his sword into the ground and sat cross-legged near Yi Qinghan. He swallowed 3 level 16 saint pills. These were pills exclusive to middle-level cultivators. 1 pill could heal a middle-level cultivator, let alone 3. Hua! Boom! Boom! The dead blood in Feng Huang's body was instantly activated. His aura was like a rainbow as his blood gushed out like a flood. Divine light shot out from his body in all directions. When the godly pellet reached his legs, it was suppressed by a strand of sword qi, preventing him from recovering quickly. Meng Fong frowned and the long spear in his hand trembled. Of course, he did not want Emperor Feng to recover his strength. After all, this person was someone who could fight against Xia Jiulong. Even if he was not as good as Xia Jiulong, he was still not someone he could fight against in his peak state. Roar! Boom! Meng Fong made his move. His spear pierced through heaven and earth and turned into a ray of light that shot towards Emperor Feng. Shua! Yi Qinghan stomped on the rocks and his body flashed through the air like a sword. He grabbed the divine sword next to Feng Huang and swung it around. Boom! The divine sword clashed with the long spear. Qi soared into the sky and dust flew everywhere. Zeng zeng zeng, Yi Qinghan retreated more than 10 steps until he was not far away from Feng Huang. His eyes flashed like lightning as he saw that Meng Fong had not retreated. Instead, Meng Fong had used all his strength to attack Feng Huang. Boom! Boom! Hua! Hua! Yi Qinghan stomped his foot and unleashed his strength. Veins popped out on his arms as he used his sword as a saber. It was as if he had the strength of 10,000 kilograms. A tyrannical aura spread out and swept across the area like a madman. Open! Yi Qinghan shouted angrily. The cold light tore through the dust and the tip of the sword clashed with the tip of the spear. Sparks flew everywhere and the spear was almost broken. Ka! An ear-piercing sound tore through everyone's eardrums. The lower-level experts were sent flying and coughed out blood. Their faces were pale. Meng Fong was shocked. He was afraid that his life-source spear would break. He immediately retreated to disperse the impact. This time, Yi Qinghan did not move. It was not that he did not want to disperse the impact, but he was worried that Meng Fong would take the opportunity to kill Emperor Feng. Mind your own business. You can't even protect yourself here. Do you want to protect others? Meng Fong said coldly. Ha ha ha, Yi Qinghan laughed loudly, Xia Jiulong told you not to kill me. Do you think I can protect myself? Meng Fong's expression changed and the killing intent in his eyes intensified. However, Yi Qinghan did not care about him. Chapter 1905. Feng Huang absorbed all the medicinal energy from the 3 pills, but the sword qi sealed his wounds, unable to break the seal. Feng Huang's body emitted a monstrous amount of divine energy, and his aura was shocking. He was still half a step away from recovery, but this half step was enough to stop him from moving forward. Yi Qinghan stood beside Feng Huang, frowning, and thought, since I've already given him 3 6th-grade divine pills, I might as well help him to the end. After thinking for a moment, Yi Qinghan took out another round divine pill, filled with divine energy, and waved his hand, sending it to Feng Huang. Since I'm a good person, take it, it should help you recover to your peak. Yi Qinghan did not seem to feel any heartache, as if he was giving away an ordinary pill, but this pill was taken from the underground palace, priceless. Feng Huang didn't recognize the origin of the pellet and swallowed it directly. Immediately, his pores opened up and the sword qi in his body was washed away. A majestic god qi flowed through his body and his divine sense became clear. The sword qi that had been suppressed for tens of thousands of years was destroyed. Ah! Feng Huang roared, and his aura rose several times, completely different from before. His ragged pants fluttered without wind, and his bones glowed with a crystal-clear light. Feng Huang exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, like a demon that was released, and his aura suppressed the surrounding experts, causing their hearts to beat wildly. Dong dong dong. At this time, even Meng Fang's heartbeat quickened, and the spear in his hand trembled. At this time, a figure descended from the sky, with shackles on his hands and legs, and moved as fast as lightning. When Feng Huang recovered to his peak, he directly sealed his divine energy, and then chained him up. Feng Huang was a special case. Other than the upper-level cultivator and Yi Qinghan, he was the only one who was chained up. The upper-level cultivator coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and laughed sinisterly. "Kid, you won't have a good ending if you meddle in other people's business here." Yi Qinghan smiled and rubbed the tip of his nose with his thumb. He said calmly, "It's okay. It doesn't matter if I suffer a little. After all, Xia Jiulong will come looking for me after some time. No matter how much he punishes me, I will pay him back tenfold. Who do you think you are? Do you need His Highness the Crown Prince to personally escort you out?" The upper realm elder mocked indifferently. Yi Qinghan smiled confidently. With a wave of his hand, he summoned the gold-devouring toad and the multicolored snake. He tied the multicolored snake to his waist, the little golden monkey to his left shoulder, the gold-devouring toad to his palm, and the divine bird to his right shoulder. "Let's go. I'll take you guys on a treasure hunt. There are so many veins here. There must be some good ones." Yi Qinghan was too lazy to argue with the upper-level cultivator. He brought his divine pets and walked into the distance. It was as if he had become the overlord of the prison. The prisoners looked at Yi Qinghan in astonishment. They didn't think that the upper-level cultivator and Meng Fang really couldn't deal with this arrogant lower-level cultivator. After walking for more than 10 meters, Yi Qinghan suddenly turned around and looked at Feng Huang. He smiled and said, "I wonder if this Dao friend Feng Huang is interested in going on a treasure hunt together." Feng Huang frowned. He couldn't figure out Yi Qinghan's identity. How could a lower-level cultivator be so arrogant? Could he have been sent by Xia Jiulong? The cautious and suspicious Feng Huang didn't really trust Yi Qinghan. However, he didn't want to sit around and wait for death. At the very least, he had to investigate Yi Qinghan's identity. "Okay." Feng Huang dragged the shackles on his feet and walked into the distance. His speed was very slow because the shackles were too heavy. Boom boom boom. Hua hua hua, the shackles let out a soul-stirring sound. Feng Huang quickly adapted to the shackles and slowly walked forward. Yi Qinghan slowly walked forward. He didn't know how deep this heaven-sealing prison was. It should be a small secret realm. The outside was a desert, but the inside shouldn't be like this. The gold-devouring toad cried out in Yi Qinghan's hand. Its eyes were wide open as it looked around. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad rushed out of Yi Qinghan's hand and ran directly to a cliff. It slowly groped around until it reached the center of the cliff. It actually started to gnaw with all its might. Perhaps because it hadn't eaten for a while, the gold-devouring toad's gnawing speed was much faster than before. Yi Qinghan didn't stop it. Instead, he silently waited. After gnawing for an hour, it actually broke through the cliff and rushed back to Yi Qinghan's hand. Feng Huang looked at the gold-devouring toad and said in astonishment, "This is the gold-devouring toad? The one who owns the gold-devouring toad has to be a powerful sect." "Yes, This is the gold-devouring toad. I found it in the shrouding secret realm, Yi Qinghan calmly replied. Feng Huang went straight to the point. I want to know who you are and why you're in the heaven-sealing prison. Yi Qinghan shrugged and answered truthfully, I come from a small region and founded a small sect in the Eternal Sword Dao sacred land. There aren't many people, only 30 or so, but they're all my brothers who grew up with me. My sect is called the Mad Sect. 1,000 years ago, I brought many of my brothers to the shrouding secret realm to train. We discussed with Xia Jiolong and other factions that if we obtained the flying immortal divine herb, the sacred lands would split the 9 eternal holy pills equally. After I obtained the immortal divine herb, I told my disciples to leave first while I stayed behind as a hostage. Perhaps my arrogance angered Xia Jiolong, who threw me into the heaven-sealing prison. Whoosh! Feng Huang took a step forward and stood side by side with Yi Qinghan. He looked straight into Yi Qinghan's eyes and nodded thoughtfully. Then, he reminded, since you're a small sect, you can't beat Xia Jiolong. Why are you so confident that he'll personally come here to take you out? Yi Qinghan laughed and said, the Oshi Sacred Land, Skyspan Cult, Eternal Sword Dao Sacred Land, Battle Clan, Hell, Middle Earth, and the #1 Wandering Cultivator will share the 9 immortal divine herbs. As long as Xia Jiolong doesn't come to take me out, the other sacred lands won't get the eternal holy pills. Xia Jiolong may not care about my mad sect, but I don't believe he doesn't care about the alliance of the 6 strongest sacred lands in the world. Feng Huang's eyes twitched. He looked at Yi Qinghan and asked with a frown, aren't you afraid that Xia Jiolong will attack your mad sect and take the immortal divine herbs? Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently, without the protection of an eternal expert, do you think I dare to fight against Xia Jiolong? Feng Huang didn't expect Yi Qinghan's plan to be so meticulous. Every step was taken to the extreme. If the mad sect was to be believed, Yi Qinghan would really be taken out by Xia Jiolong himself. Better safe than sorry. Be careful that the mad sect doesn't betray you and leave you here. After all, these are eternal holy pills, not something else. In front of absolute benefits, nothing can be trusted. Feng Huang reminded faintly. Yi Qinghan smiled. If the mad sect could betray him, then no one in the world could be trusted. The strongest of the mad sect's younger generation is a child I personally raised. The rest are my brothers who grew up with me. Even if the world betrays me, they won't betray me. Yi Qinghan replied confidently. Chapter 1906. Emperor Feng looked at Yi Qinghan's confident eyes and couldn't help but sigh. It was such an honor to have 20 or 30 people in one's life that one could completely trust. What he didn't know was that if anyone from the insane school was captured, he would personally do his best to save them, even if it meant going bankrupt. Whoosh! The two continued to walk deeper into the prison. The sound of the chains dragging on the ground was particularly ear-piercing. Yi Qinghan couldn't break the chains by himself, so there was nothing he could do at this moment. As they walked deeper into the prison, there was a camp every 3,000 li. The two talked for a while before Yi Qinghan understood that there were many young kings and supremes of the older generation imprisoned here. Most of them were sent here by Xia Jiolong, but some of them were criminals. The reason they were kept here until now was because the Holy Empire kept them here to train the young experts of the royal family. Every 10 years, there would be a battle here, and the next one was only half a year away. Princes, princesses, and princesses all had a chance of dying here. However, their mortality rate was much lower than those of nobility. In the heaven-sealing prison, there was no supply of pills and spirit energy. When facing the powerful princes, princesses, and princesses, they didn't even have weapons. Naturally, the mortality rate was much higher. We're all lambs in captivity, no one is an exception. Unless we're lucky enough to encounter some death missions, as long as we complete them, we can leave this prison. However, the mortality rate of death missions is 99%, and in the end, we'll all be working for the princes. Emperor Feng smiled bitterly, as if he had already accepted his fate. What's the matter with those upper-level cultivators? Yi Qinghan curiously asked. Emperor Feng shook his head and said, I don't know how long they've been imprisoned here. There's no news of them in the outside world. Yi Qinghan silently nodded and didn't ask any more questions. After about 3 days, the gold-devouring toad suddenly became restless. The gold-devouring toad is restless. Is there a powerful weapon refining or nearby? Emperor Feng looked at the gold-devouring toad in Yi Qinghan's hand, then looked at the surrounding mountain range in astonishment. There were only caves everywhere, and they were filled with holes. There shouldn't be any divine items left. Yi Qinghan bent down and placed the gold-devouring toad on the ground, allowing it to move forward. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad jumped several hundred meters away, directly rushing towards one of the caves. Yi Qinghan and Emperor looked at each other, then quickly followed. The caves crisscrossed and interconnected with each other. They were incomparably deep and bottomless. However, they were not steep. It was obvious that they had been dug by humans. Whoosh! The gold-devouring toad dragged the gold-devouring toad's footsteps. Feng Huang was very careful, afraid that he would accidentally fall into the abyss. In order to save time, Yi Qinghan directly picked up the iron chain on his shackles to share some of his weight. The two of them sped up. The gold-devouring toad sped up and became more and more excited, but Feng Huang and Yi Qinghan didn't notice it at all. The divine bird was also surprised. What did this thing find? Why is it more excited than a pervert seeing a beautiful woman? The divine bird raised its eyebrows. It claimed to be a treasure hunter, but it couldn't feel the slightest fluctuation of spiritual energy. It couldn't help but feel angry. They were already deep in the cave, but there was still a faint light. For experts, the surroundings were clear. The rocks at the bottom were especially hard. Even with Yi Qinghan's body, it was hard to damage them. Those criminals had only given up because they couldn't feel the slightest bit of spiritual energy here. Dong dong dong. Yi Qinghan stepped on the rocks, the sound echoing in the cave, and the rocks continued to fall. But the gold-devouring toad and the little golden monkey actually went berserk. The two little guys waved their little claws, and the rocks shattered like rotten wood. The gold-devouring toad's golden teeth crushed the rocks like tofu. Ka ka ka. Kacha, the sound of rocks being crushed made the scalp numb. The gold-devouring toad and Yi Qinghan scratched their heads. Squeak squeak squeak. The little golden monkey jumped up and down, constantly slapping the rocks. The rocks actually became soft and turned into fine powder. This little golden monkey, what breed is it? The gold-devouring toad asked in shock. Yi Qinghan shook his head. This was Zhang Tianshan's treasure. He really didn't know what rank this divine beast was. It could open seals, and its current performance was even more shocking. Squeak squeak squeak. The little golden monkey smashed apart a large piece of rock, forming a deep pit filled with stone fragments. Its little claws pointed at Yi Qinghan, indicating for him to take the stone fragments away. Hua! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and swept away all the stone fragments. He discovered that the rocks below had turned scarlet red. The gold-devouring toad had already bitten out a sizable hole. It was even more excited now, and its fangs continuously gnawed at the rocks. The little golden monkey's claws were like divine weapons, tearing apart the rocks. Boom! Roar! But not long after, the gold-devouring toad and the little golden monkey were hit hard. The gold-devouring toad's small, golden teeth were broken, and it was bleeding. The little golden monkey held its claws and rolled on the ground. It was in so much pain that it began to cry. Screech! The gold-devouring toad screeched. It was like a sound from hell. It pierced Yi Qinghan and the gold-devouring toad's eardrums, and it made them stumble back a dozen steps. Their faces were pale, and they were bleeding. Yi Qinghan looked at the gold-devouring toad in shock. He didn't know what they had encountered to make these xenogeneics look like this. There must be some kind of supernatural iron ore down there. Otherwise, these two xenogeneics wouldn't be in this state, the gold-devouring toad said with certainty. Yi Qinghan nodded, but the gold-devouring toad was still screaming. They didn't dare get too close to it. The god bird was excited. No, it was excited. Ha ha ha. I told you. There is nothing in this world that can hide from the will of a god bird, the god bird boasted. Humph. Yi Qinghan groaned. Now, it wasn't just the god bird. He could feel something that didn't belong to this world. After a long time, the gold-devouring toad and the little golden monkey finally recovered. They lay on the ground on the verge of death. Yi Qinghan quickly absorbed them into his bloodline to heal their injuries. Then, he went to the deep pit and cleaned up all the stone fragments. He found a layer of silvery white substance in the pit. Its aura was restrained, just like ordinary iron. It only had a little spiritual energy. If it weren't for the light flowing on top of it, he wouldn't have thought that it was a supernatural substance. Yi Qinghan touched the glowing supernatural substance, and a warm stream of air flowed into his body. It was as if he was bathing in the spring of life, and all the pores on his body opened, absorbing the spiritual energy around him. His exhaustion vanished. The same was true for the gold-devouring toad. His injuries and exhaustion were all gone. He was full of energy, and his temperament was otherworldly. It seemed he was about to break through to the upper level. What is this? The gold-devouring toad asked. Godly gold. Yi Qinghan said. He didn't know what this godly gold was, but the gold-devouring toad inside his body knew. At this moment, a soul wave exploded in his mind, and information about the godly gold flooded in. Chapter 1907. Divine gold was obviously a supernatural material. Otherwise, it wouldn't have knocked out several of the toad's teeth. It was a creature that fed on powerful minerals, so how could its teeth be knocked out by food? Divine gold? Emperor Feng raised his eyebrows. Even though he had seen a lot, he had never heard of the grade of this substance. Whoosh! Hiss! Yi Qinghan took a deep breath, his fingertips trembling as he said in a hoarse voice, "This is the material of an eternal sacred artifact. Every piece of divine gold has a companion creature under it, such as divine milk. It's an eternal sacred medicine, not inferior to flying immortal spirit medicines. It's specifically used to refine the body. For body refiners like us, it's even more precious than immortal spirit medicines." Emperor Feng looked at the divine gold in the two pits. It was at least 1 meter long and wide. This material couldn't be taken away. Once it was exposed, Xia Jiulong would definitely come and take it away. He couldn't help but sigh. Unfortunately, it can only be used by others. Emperor Feng said truthfully. Yi Qinghan frowned. Naturally, he didn't want to give this treasure to Xia Jiulong. His soul revolved at high speed, trying to think of a way to transport the divine gold out. That's not necessarily true. Yi Qinghan didn't want to work for others, but this material couldn't be stored in a storage ring, and it was so big. The two of them didn't have the ability to figure it out. No matter how hard they tried, it would be futile. The divine bird was also drooling, itching to pull the divine gold out of the pit. After a long time, Yi Qinghan sighed and said, "Let's ignore the divine gold for now. The companion creature under it must be mine. It's the essence of the divine gold, specifically used to refine the body. Once I take it, my body can be refined to the level of an eternal sacred artifact, invincible and unbreakable." Emperor Feng's eyes twitched in shock. He didn't expect Yi Qinghan to know so much. He also didn't expect there to be something more precious than the divine gold. How do we take it out? Emperor Feng asked. Let's dig out the utmost divine gold first. The utmost divine gold elixir is under the rock. Judging by the size of this utmost divine gold elixir, it should weigh at least 50 kilograms. It's enough for me to cultivate to the peak of the upper level or even the eternal realm. Yi Qinghan couldn't contain his excitement. His physical body had reached the eternal realm. He was definitely the first of his kind in history. Feng Huang's eyes flashed with excitement. He used the sharp iron shackles on his shackles to cut the stone. Just as the two of them had predicted, this piece of godly metal was 1.2 meters long and half a meter wide. It was very irregular, just like an ordinary stone. Yi Qinghan cleared out all the rocks around him and reached out to pull out the ultimate divine metal. Drink plus. The veins on Yi Qinghan's entire body bulged, and his divine power poured out. The stone under his feet was crushed, but the ultimate divine metal did not move at all. Even Yi Qinghan could not estimate how heavy this small stone was. Ho ho ho. Dong! 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 Yi Qinghan gasped for breath. His face was red, and he shook his head. He looked at Feng Huang and said helplessly, I can't move this ultimate divine metal. It really is worthy of being an eternal sacred artifact material. Feng Huang tied the iron shackles to the ultimate divine metal and said to Yi Qinghan, Come, let's work together. Yi Qinghan pulled to the right, and Feng Huang pulled to the left, trying to pull it up by the roots. Boom! The ultimate divine metal moved slightly, but the iron shackles and the protrusions of the ultimate divine metal kept rubbing against each other. Sparks flew everywhere. Ka ka ka, the iron shackles were about to break. Feng Huang was overjoyed and said loudly, Put down the ultimate divine metal. I will break the iron shackles first. After I recover my divine power, I can lift the ultimate divine metal up. Yi Qinghan's face was red, and his whole body was sore. His legs were twisted, and he slowly put the ultimate divine metal into the pit. Kacha! Kacha! Feng Huang placed the iron shackles on the protrusions of the ultimate divine metal and slid them back and forth. The ultimate divine metal was so sharp that it was like an eternal sacred artifact. The iron shackles immediately broke. Once the iron shackles were broken, Feng Huang recovered most of his divine power. With a tug, the shackles were broken. Then, Feng Huang also broke the iron shackles on his legs. His majestic divine power quickly recovered to its peak state. With the ultimate divine metal in his hand, his strength increased by 30%. Ha! Feng Huang roared, and his divine power roared as he pulled the ultimate divine metal up. Below the supreme divine gold, there was a small pillar that was like a tree root. The top was wet, and fluorescent light flickered. Spiritual chi was boundless, especially below the root, it was actually like an endless treasury. Divine radiance flickered, containing endless life. Boom! Feng Huang quickly placed the ultimate divine metal on the ground. The cave almost collapsed. What a powerful spiritual chi fluctuation. Yi Qinghan sealed the entrance of the cave with his godly power and looked down at the deep pit below. It had already formed a huge round pit and there were more than 100 caddies of godly elixir inside. It was like a small pond with dense godly elixir surging and overflowing with spiritual energy. I can't take the ultimate divine metal away, but I won't let anyone else take the divine liquid. Yi Qinghan laughed and took out a transparent jade bottle. Even if it couldn't hold a lake, it could hold millions of kilograms of liquid. Fortunately, the pit was not very deep. Yi Qinghan pressed the bottle into the pit and kept absorbing the divine liquid. The divine liquid wrapped around his wrist, and it was as if there was a viscous divine power squeezing into his body. It almost pushed him into the middle realm. The pores on his body exploded, and he kept absorbing the essence of the divine liquid. Gulp! Gulp! Hearing the pleasant sound, Feng Huang did not stop it. He was not greedy at all, because he did not have a storage ring. Even if he took the divine liquid, it would only be a gift to someone else. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, Yi Qinghan managed to extract 99% of the divine liquid. However, there were still some corners that he could not extract. Yi Qinghan quickly sealed the jade bottle and carefully kept it in his storage ring. He looked at Emperor Feng and said, "Brother Emperor Feng, there is still some left. You can use it." Feng Huang sat cross-legged at the entrance of the cave without any hesitation. His godly power surged as he sucked all of the godly liquid into his palm. The godly liquid contained an immeasurable amount of energy. It was countless times more potent than the godly pellet Yi Qinghan gave him. Boom boom boom. Feng Huang's godly power roared like a volcano that was about to erupt. His supreme god force was breaking through the bottleneck, and the godly liquid provided him with an endless amount of energy. Yi Qinghan stood at the side to protect Feng Huang, and he looked up warily. If they were discovered by the guards, Xia Jiulong would definitely snatch the godly liquid and godly metal away. A moment later, a towering aura enveloped the valley, and the entire cave trembled. Boom. Hua. Feng Huang's godly aura rushed out of the cave like a flood. Some of the pillars in the cave could not withstand the impact, and they crumbled. Huge rocks fell from the sky. "Let's go, we'll leave the godly metal here. We'll definitely come back to take it in the future." The instant the peerless emperor's aura roared, it quickly returned to normal, returning to the peak of the middle stage. He grabbed Yi Qinghan's arm and rushed towards the entrance of the cave. Chapter 1908. Whoosh. Boom boom boom. Whoosh. Huge rocks continued to fall like meteors, crashing down beside the two of them. Strong winds swept across their faces, causing their hair to dance wildly. Boom. The upper mountain collapsed, submerging the entire cave. The extreme divine metal was also buried in the cave. Whoosh. Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang shot out of the cave like two bolts of lightning, brushing past a huge rock. Their arms were immediately covered in blood. Humph! Yi Qinghan let out a muffled groan as he touched his left shoulder. It was bruised all over and his bones had almost been broken. Blood was flowing non-stop. "Sorry," Emperor Feng said with a shrug. "It's okay. This little injury is nothing. Let's leave this place quickly." Yi Qinghan glanced around and found no experts. He was relieved. The two quickly left. The divine bird squatted on Yi Qinghan's shoulder and said with regret, "He actually left the extreme divine metal behind. What a waste." But at this time, less than 5 days after Yi Qinghan left, Meng Fang's deputy general returned to the Sealing Heavens prison. In Meng Fang's camp, Meng Fang's deputy general bowed to Meng Fang and said, "Sir, I've found out the identity of that person. His name is Yi Qinghan, the sect master of a small sect in a small territory. This guy had an immortal herb in his hand that could refine 9 eternal immortal pills. However, the immortal herb was taken away by his disciple. That's why he thought that His Highness the Crown Prince would not dare to kill him." Meng Fang nodded thoughtfully and said, "I see. No wonder he dared to be so arrogant in the Sealing Heavens prison. He was confident that His Highness the Crown Prince would personally welcome him out. However, he underestimated His Highness the Crown Prince. How can a small sect like him defy the heavens? With His Highness the Crown Prince personally taking action, even the strongest force can be uprooted. The immortal herb will definitely belong to our holy empire. General, it is said that His Highness the Crown Prince did not take action. Instead, he is waiting for the people of the insane sect to redeem Yi Qinghan with an eternal immortal pill." The deputy general immediately replied. Meng Fang was somewhat doubtful and asked, are you sure that His Highness the Crown Prince will give up on the other 8 immortal pills and only take one? General, there's something you don't know. Yi Qinghan has promised several holy lands. Even the insane sect only has one. The Crown Prince may want the insane sect's elixir, but he can't take the other holy lands' elixirs, said the deputy. No wonder. Meng Fong clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and said coldly, Yi Qinghan, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Once I get the immortal pill, His Highness the Crown Prince might not let you go. When that time comes, I'll make you beg for death. But from what I've heard from Princess Yun Shui, she wants us to cripple him. It's best if we torture him to the point of insanity and force him to submit. The deputy general said in a low voice. With this permission, Meng Fong was excited. He tapped the table with his fingertips and said in a hoarse voice, send people to capture Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng. No, I'll do it myself. You go and gather the troops. The deputy general quickly gathered a large number of experts under Meng Fong's lead and rushed into the depths of the camp. He released a sky-piercing cloud arrow, which exploded in the sky. It seemed to be seeking support from the camp in the depths of the camp. Tens of thousands of miles away, Emperor Feng looked up at the sky-piercing cloud arrow and frowned. What is Meng Fong trying to do? This is a sky-piercing cloud arrow used to capture fugitives. It's to remind the experts in the other camps to cooperate. He wants to capture us. I don't think that's necessary. I have a tracking device on me. They can easily capture my location. Woo woo woo. A low sound of a bugle horn spread through the wilderness, echoing in the desolate mountain range. Then, a large number of guards brought some slaves into the prison. Emperor Feng and Yi Qinghan looked outside. Although they couldn't see anyone, they could feel a wave of energy coming from outside. It must be Meng Fong leading a large number of experts to capture them. What are these bastards trying to do? Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. Emperor Feng wasn't sure if they were trying to capture them because of Yi Qinghan. He had been in the prison for so long. What kind of crimes had he not suffered? Meng Fong probably wouldn't be in the mood to torture him. They probably want to capture you. Emperor Feng replied calmly. We'll fight them until Xia Jiulong has no choice but to come and take me out. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. But Emperor Feng shook his head and said bluntly, there's a sky-piercing mirror in this prison. As long as we're in the prison, the sky-piercing mirror will be able to capture our location. If we want to hide for 3 to 5 days, there's still hope. Yi Qinghan was full of confidence. He said proudly, where there's a will, there's a way. Have your edges been smoothed out? The sky-piercing mirror always has a blind spot. I still have a tracking device on me. It's behind my neck. Help me take it out. Emperor Feng's eyes flashed. He snorted coldly in his heart. He wasn't willing to accept the arrangement of fate. His arrogance from the past rose once more. Yi Qinghan looked at the back of his neck and saw that there was indeed a scar. He took out a dagger and gently cut it open. He discovered that there was a small tracking talisman wrapped around his bones. If he couldn't undo the talisman, he wouldn't be able to remove the tracking device. However, this wasn't a problem for the little golden monkey. Yi Qinghan called out the little golden monkey. At this moment it was still grimacing in pain. Its little claws were about to break. Endure the pain. Yi Qinghan said. He had the little monkey remove the talisman. The little monkey patted the talisman with its left paw. Yi Qinghan didn't know how it did it, but the tracking talisman dimmed and lost most of its effect. Yi Qinghan tore it off. Emperor Feng's face was fierce. He endured the pain. God power flowed through his injured body and he quickly recovered. Let's go. With that, Yi Qinghan threw the tracking talisman down the cliff. He rushed forward alone. He used his divine sense to explore the distance. He avoided the surrounding prisoners and went straight into the depths of the prison. Just as Yi Qinghan took out the tracking talisman, the red dot on the mirror in Meng Fong's hand disappeared. Why did the tracking talisman lose its effect? Meng Fong frowned. He looked at the mountain where Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng disappeared. He led the army and rushed over. However, there was no one around. They can't escape. Chase them. Meng Fong said angrily. Deputy General Lin, go and ask the heaven-sealing prison's commander to activate the sky-piercing mirror. The disappearance of the tracking talisman on Emperor Feng's body is a big matter. We can't let our guard down. Meng Fong said. After receiving the order, Deputy General Lin changed direction and rushed into the depths of the prison. Half an hour later, Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang, who were hiding under a cliff far away, suddenly looked up at the sky. An aura that didn't belong to humans enveloped the entire heaven-sealing prison. There was no blind spot. A huge mirror appeared in the sky, sparkling with multicolored light, just like the heavenly eye. The sky-piercing mirror has been activated. The main location is near us. Hide your aura and hide in a cave. Wait for the sky-piercing mirror to move. Emperor Feng had been here for a long time. He knew the sky-piercing mirror like the back of his hand. He quickly hid in a cave and hid his aura. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, Yi Qinghan wouldn't be able to sense his aura. Yi Qinghan also hid his aura. He was like a rock. His body temperature dropped rapidly. The sky-piercing mirror scanned the surroundings again and again. It seemed to be certain that the two were here. After a long time, Emperor Feng started to panic. If they were caught this time, it wouldn't be as simple as a punishment. The tracking talisman would be destroyed. Once the heaven-sealing prison thought that they had lost control, they might give the order to kill them. Yi Qinghan frowned. He was thinking about how to escape from the sky-piercing mirror. Chapter 1909. With Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng on the run, all the soldiers and prisoners outside the sealing sky prison were involved in the capture. However, it was at this moment that Sword 13 from the Eternal Sacred Ground arrived at Heaven Suppressing City. The Eternal Sacred Ground's intelligence network was far superior to the insane sects. When Sword 13 saw Lin Wuxian, Yan Ao, Gu Qingyu, and the others, he went straight to the point. Brother Qinghan has been captured by the Saint Empire's Crown Prince Xia Jiulong and sent to the sealing sky prison. There are countless invincible kings in this prison. If you don't redeem him immediately, he will be in danger. Yan Ao and the others were shocked. They didn't expect Xia Jiulong to be so ruthless. He didn't care about the consequences at all. He was extremely confident. Sword 13 cupped his fists and said, "There are some things that the Sword Dao Sacred Ground cannot interfere with. I came to inform you of this behind the Sacred Ground's back. As for what to do, I will leave it to you." With that, Sword 13 didn't even give them a chance to thank him. He turned and disappeared into the night. Yan Ao's lips twitched. His handsome face twitched. He clenched his fists and said coldly, "Announce to the world that if anything happens to the sect master of the insane sect would rather die than live in dishonor. No one will get the eternal immortal pill." Yan Ao knew Yi Qinghan very well. The reason why he dared to become a hostage was because of the insane sect's strength. When they were tied together, no one could tear them apart. This news exploded in all directions like a thunderclap. It spread very quickly, and all the holy lands that were cooperating with Yi Qinghan received the news. In the sky-piercing school, the three deans sat together. Wen Su had white hair and a ruddy complexion. His dignified face showed a hint of anger. He said in a deep voice, "The Nine Dragons' Crown Prince has crossed the line this time. If he invited Yi Qinghan to the Saint Empire, how can he throw him into the sealing sky prison? I heard that he is also chained up by the God Seal chain." Is he trying to kill Yi Qinghan? How confident is he that he can get the immortal pill even if Yi Qinghan dies? The Nine Extremes Taoist was very impatient and had a very bad temper. He slapped the table, stood up and said, "This father is going to find him. He doesn't need the immortal pill, but he can't lose the one from my transcending heaven school." One Hong holy man waved his hands and said, "Senior Jiuji, your temper is too bad. Xia Jiulong is used to being arrogant. If you go and talk to him, it will only backfire. It is better for Senior Jiuji to go." In the eternal sacred land of Sword Dao, Sovereign Sword and Sovereign Sage were drinking and playing chess. Pieces fell from the board, and every move they made was breathtaking. "Have you heard the news from Guangzhou?" Lord Sword asked faintly. "Even if I don't care about outside affairs, I should know about such a big matter." Chess Saint smiled and sipped a cup of tea. Sigh. It's impossible for the insane sex intelligence system to know that the Holy Empire has imprisoned Yi Qinghan in the sealed sky prison. 13. This child is still acting on impulse. I'm afraid he didn't explain much when he passed the news. That's why the insane sect announced it so loudly to the world, trying to force the Holy Lands to join forces and negotiate with Xia Jiulong. Lord Sword sighed. "Senior brother, you don't have to worry. Let me talk to Xia Jiulong. I'm sure the other sacred lands have already sent their top experts to the Saint Empire. No matter how arrogant Xia Jiulong is, he has to give face to so many sacred lands." Chess Saint said calmly. "Thank you, junior brother, for making the trip." Sword Sovereign said. "There's no time to lose. I'll go to the Saint Empire first." Chess Master Saint got up and bowed slightly. His silhouette blurred right away, as if he had shattered the void and left through the void. Sword Sovereign looked at the spot where Chess Saint had disappeared and sighed softly. He muttered to himself, "Junior brother has been comprehending the Tao for millions of years. Once he achieved the Tao, he shocked the world. Everyone says that Xia Jiulong has the best chance of becoming the next Eternal. I think it's me." At the same time, the battle monarch of the battle tribe left the battle tribe's territory and went straight to the Saint Empire. Moz of Hell had broken through the shackles under the orders of the Lord of Hell. The Oshi sacred ground seemed to have been waiting for the insane sect's announcement. They were the furthest away and were the first to set off. Aster and 3 experts had already entered the Sword Dao eternal sacred ground. The experts of the 6 sacred lands were heading to the Saint Empire. Although there were only a few of them, they represented the 6 sacred lands. However, Martial Sage Sacred Grounds Martial Sage Wu Jinjuan couldn't resist Emperor Ye's request and had to send a top expert to bring Emperor Yi to the capital of the Saint Empire. At the same time, Yen Ao made a decision in the Kuang manner. Fazhen Demon Ancestor would personally bring him to the Holy Empire to see Yi Qinghan. Otherwise, he would shed all pretense of cordiality and no one would be able to obtain the immortal herb. In any case, the immortal herb was in the hands of the Green Lotus Sword deity. No one could take it away. The large-scale transmission array was like a transmission array between holy lands. The powerhouses of the various forces were extremely fast. Almost all of them could move the stars and shatter the void. They were all existences at the peak of the upper realm. Although they weren't eternal sovereigns, they were the strongest powerhouses below eternal sovereigns. Half a year later, at the entrance of the Saint Empire's capital, a white-haired old man appeared. It was Chess Venerate Saint. He had a sage-like demeanor and an otherworldly temperament. He looked very ordinary, but the 9 golden swords embroidered on his shoulders were vivid and lifelike, representing his identity. That was the symbol of the 9 sword peaks of the sacred land. Chess Venerate Saint was a nobody. Few people knew him, but he was the first to arrive at the capital. However, he didn't go directly to Xia Jiulong. Instead, he checked into an inn. In the imperial city, Xia Jiulong was sipping fragrant tea and playing with the cup. He listened to the report of a black-clothed spy and said indifferently, you said that a peak master of the sacred land of the sword has come. Which peak master is it? Replying to your highness, the old man has 9 golden swords embroidered on his shoulders. It's indeed the unique attire of the 9 peak masters of the sword Tao. However, this person is very unfamiliar. This little one has never seen him before. The spy replied respectfully. Xia Jiulong smiled faintly and said, that's the chess venerate saint, who hasn't appeared in 10,000 years. Others might not know, but I know that this person's strength is infinitely close to the eternal sovereign realm. I didn't expect him to come. Since he's here, but he doesn't want me to meet him. Then let him wait. A few days later, the old warlord of Warlord Manor slowly came over. Suddenly, he frowned and looked in the direction of Chess Venerate Saint before walking over. Chess Venerate Saint sat calmly on the fishing platform with a fishing rod in hand. There was only a line on it, but there were no fish or hook. However, there were many fat fish with overwhelming spiritual energy in the bucket. He was fishing, but his influence controlled half of the capital. Old warlord, long time no see. You're still as strong as ever. Chess Venerate Saint looked at the lake with a smile. He didn't even turn his head, but he knew that the warlord was behind him. Chapter 1910. The old war monarch was tall and sturdy. Although he was old, his battle intent was still soaring. He stared at the back of the chess saint and was shocked. You are, the fella that followed Lord Sword back then? Who would have thought that the top experts of the various sacred grounds back then would be inferior to a chess cultivator? The old war monarch was shocked. Ha ha ha, the chess saint's voice was deep and powerful. He laughed heartily and said, the old war monarch's memory is not bad. You have only seen me 3 times and you can remember me. This old man is impressed. Sigh, I'm old. I can't fight anymore. Who would have thought that I would be able to see someone of the same generation step into that level in my lifetime? The old war monarch seemed to have aged a few hundred years. His voice was hoarse as he muttered. Half a step away is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The old war monarch thinks too highly of this old man. If I were 1,000,000 years younger, I might have the chance to touch that level. The chess saint said calmly. It was as if his heart was already calm and had no desires. The old war monarch looked at the chess saint's calm attitude and couldn't help but feel inferior. He didn't want to say anything more and asked, since you are already here, why don't you go and see Xia Jiulong? With this old man's strength, it's hard to make the crown prince admit defeat. It's better for everyone to go together. The old war monarch rarely goes out. Let's not talk about official matters. Why don't you accompany this old man fishing and live a carefree life? Perhaps you will like such a life. The chess saint was still calm. His tone was as calm as a robot's. The old war monarch quietly sat down and casually broke a piece of bamboo. He then turned it into a simple fishing rod. After a while, the chess saint suddenly said, the people from hell are here too. Wu Yunlai is here too. The old war monarch was even more shocked. He couldn't sense any of the 2 people that the chess saint mentioned. The chess saint's soul was too strong. The chess saint condensed his voice into a line and didn't disturb any mystical laws. Moz and the Wu clan's Wu Yunlai, who were at the city gate 100 miles away, heard the chess saint's call. The 2 of them looked at each other and went straight to the lake behind the inn. Half a day later, the Oshi Sacred Grounds Aster and 3 other experts arrived at the city gate. Wen Su stepped on the cool breeze. In the evening, Fazhan and Demon Supremacy appeared outside the capital city with Yen Ao. They quickly made their way to the imperial city. However, halfway there, they were stopped by Chess Supreme and the rest. All of them were present. Daoist Fazhan, let's go together, Chess Venerate Saint said calmly. When Yen Ao saw that the people from the 6 great holy lands had all arrived, he took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He thought to himself, sooner or later, I will lead an army and flatten this great world. With the exception of Yen Ao, the group of experts were all at upper plane great fulfillment, especially Chess Venerate Saint, who was close to reaching that level. They headed straight for the imperial city. But at this time, Xia Jiulong personally came out to greet him. He had a smile on his face, and he looked cultured and refined, as if he was courteous to the wise. Xia Jiulong bowed slightly and said, I didn't know that you would be coming. Forgive me for not coming out to greet you. The crowd nodded. However, they did not say anything. Instead, they looked to Yen Ao and Demon Exalted. It would be best for them to personally explain this matter. The corner of Yen Ao's mouth twitched as he said angrily, our crazy sect still has the same words. If anything happens to our sect master, the entire crazy sect would rather die than live in dishonor. None of you will be able to obtain the immortal pill. Xia Jiulong, as the Holy Empire's crown prince, you have thrown away the Holy Empire's face by treating your guests in such a despicable manner. Our sect master trusted you and respected you as the crown prince. That was why he did not resist and came here as a hostage. However, you directly threw him into prison. Our crazy sect needs an explanation and an apology from you in front of the whole world. Everyone was shocked. They did not expect Yen Ao's words to be so sharp. Xia Jiulong's face also changed. The dignified Holy Empire's crown prince was actually insulted by a nameless junior. Furthermore, it was an insult to the Holy Empire's face. How could he not be angry? What is your name? Xia Jiulong asked coldly. Yen Ao. Yen Ao replied coldly. Those who dare to speak to me in such a manner are all dead. You are not an exception. Killing intent flashed in Xia Jiulong's eyes as his pressure enveloped Yen Ao. He wanted to make Yen Ao kneel to regain his face. Boom! Yen Ao's footsteps crisscrossed as his momentum soared to the 9 heavens. Although he was only a lower realm cultivator, his temperament was like that of a monarch that could not be blasphemed. There is no one in my crazy sect who is afraid of death. Whether you kill me or our sect master, you will not be able to obtain the immortal pill. Even the other holy lands will not be able to obtain the immortal pill. If you don't believe me, you can try. Who in my crazy sect will kneel and beg you for mercy? Yen Ao replied coldly. As soon as these words came out, the experts of the 7 holy lands, including Wu Yunlai, stood in front of Yen Ao. They did not have the slightest intention of retreating. The chess sovereign shook his head slightly. His voice was deep and kind as he said faintly, Your Highness Jiulong, Yi Qinghan is no longer suitable to stay in the Holy Empire. Hand him over to this old man. When the time comes, this old man will naturally send the immortal pill to the Holy Empire. Xia Jiulong smiled silently and said proudly, When this emperor does things, I always like to control everything in my own hands. I will not wait passively. Everyone, please return. Crazy sect, they can't do anything. Yen Ao grinned coldly. Is that so? I'll give you a word. You only have 6 hours to deliver the sect master to me safely. Otherwise, not only your holy empire, but also the other holy lands will not get the immortal elixir. Since I've come here today, I have no intention of leaving. I'm just a nobody in the crazy sect. If I can die with the sect master, my life will not be in vain. It's worth exchanging our lives for 7 immortal elixirs. The expressions of the experts of the other holy lands changed. They did not expect the crazy sect to be so stubborn. They were not afraid of death. If a little disciple was so determined, the others would be the same. Immeasurable heavenly sovereign, Your Highness Jiulong, please give me face and hand over Yi Qinghan to this old man, Wen Su said in a deep voice. Your Highness Jiulong, the great ancestor of the holy lands of the martial way has asked me to pass on a message. Yi Qinghan is the husband of our Holy Land Saintess, Wuxia. If you kill him, it will be a declaration of war against our holy lands. Wu Yunlai said in a deep voice. Your Highness Jiulong, your holy empire does not care about an immortal pill, but my hell does. Whoosh! All the holy lands expressed their stance and pressured Xia Jiulong. Xia Jiulong did not care about a single force, but he had to care about hell and the sky-reaching church. Especially the sky-reaching church, which had a close relationship with the Holy Empire. Once he lost the support of the sky-reaching church, how could he fight against the Western Holy Lands? Humph! Xia Jiulong flicked his sleeve and snorted. He waved his hand and said to an expert behind him, Go, bring Yi Qinghan here. In the heaven-sealing prison, Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang were running through the wilderness, trying to avoid the search of the sky-searching mirror. Their speed had reached the limit, almost exceeding the speed of the sky-searching mirror. Whoosh! 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 The two of them jumped hundreds of meters away and rolled close to the ground to dissipate the impact. They entered a barren valley, where a majestic resentment rushed out. It seemed that even the guards had disappeared. There was no sign of life here. Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang were shocked. They looked at each other and said in unison, There are Supreme Being experts trapped here. Chapter 1911. Emperor Feng and Yi Qinghan were both shocked. This place of suffering actually had such a dense aura of resentment. What kind of person was locked up here? How many years had he been locked up for? The two were very curious. Moreover, the people locked up in this prison were all invincible existences. If they didn't find out the truth, this mystery would continue to haunt them. Thus, after exchanging a glance, the two quickly rushed into the depths of the prison. The path was rugged and the cliff was less than half a meter long. The cliff was unfathomably deep and there was no support point. Once one fell, there was no chance of survival. The two, one in front and one behind, walked along the cliff. When they reached a corner, they were shocked by the scene before them. A man with disheveled hair and a dirty face, his clothes ragged and his body dirty. He was tied up by dozens of iron chains and hung halfway up the mountain. Each divine seal chain was specially forged and was thicker than the iron chains used to bind upper-level cultivators. They contained countless runic restrictions. Ordinary upper-level cultivators only had shackles on their hands and feet, but this person had so many shackles on him that they almost covered his entire body. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He couldn't imagine what kind of person would make the Holy Empire so vigilant and lock him up in the heaven-sealing prison. Who is this person? Do you know him? Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Feng and asked curiously. Emperor Feng looked carefully and shook his head, I can't see his face. Looking at his clothes, he should have been locked up for a long time. That's why he has such a strong aura of resentment. Sigh. Yi Qinghan shouted in a low voice, wanting to wake up the sleeping man. Shwa! The man who was hung halfway up the mountain suddenly opened his eyes. His star-like eyes were deep and ferocious, like a demon from the depths of hell. One look at him was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Hiss! Emperor Feng and Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't help but take a step back. So strong. He's even stronger than me. The confident Emperor Feng exclaimed. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but admit that once the shackles on this person were released, no human could fight against him. Roared up that man screamed, but he couldn't say anything. His soul spirit and divine power were suppressed, and he couldn't even send a message. He couldn't move at all, and the ferocious light in his eyes intensified. Yi Qinghan slowly approached the man. He raised his head and saw that the man was barefoot. There were actually 9 star lines on the soles of his feet. Even though there was no divine light surging, they were still clearly visible. "Be careful, don't get too close to him," Feng Huang warned. The man stared fixedly at Yi Qinghan. Other than the ferocity in his eyes, there was no murderous intent. Their eyes met as if they could communicate without words. Woo woo woo, all of a sudden, the sound of bugle horns rumbled continuously from the periphery, spreading towards the valley. It was so deafening that it almost collapsed. "Hurry up and leave. If Xia Jiulong finds out that you found this person, you and I will never be able to leave the heaven-sealing prison," Emperor Feng quickly reminded. Yi Qinghan did not have time to ask any more questions. He turned around and rushed out. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The two of them were as fast as lightning. After rushing out of the valley, they quickly fled in the opposite direction, not daring to hesitate. Woo woo. The sound of the bugle horn suddenly became urgent, containing a special meaning. However, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng did not know. Boom boom boom. Several upper-level figures shuttled through the sky, searching for Yi Qinghan's traces. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng fled far away, not daring to show themselves. They were afraid that Xia Jiulong would kill them to silence them. Now, they were sure that this person's identity was not simple. He didn't even have a guard. It was clear that even the guard did not believe him. At this moment, a voice like a mighty bell came from the periphery. "Yi Qinghan, His Highness the Crown Prince summons you to leave the heaven-sealing prison. Quickly show yourself." The expert sent by Xia Jiulong flew into the sky, looking down at all directions and said in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan coldly snorted and said disdainfully, "He casually threw me into the prison. If he wants to send me out, he should at least personally welcome me out." At this moment, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Feng were already quite far away from the cliff where the expert was imprisoned. Emperor Feng was relieved and led Yi Qinghan to the periphery. Outside the periphery, the middle-aged man looked disdainfully. He suppressed Meng Fong to the point that he did not dare to breathe. His face was pale as he said in horror, "My lord, that Yi Qinghan. His Highness ordered us not to kill him, so he went deeper. This general did not dare to stop him, so. You dare to quibble after making a mistake." Boom. The middle-aged man waved his sleeve. It seemed like he did not use any strength, but he hit Meng Fong until he spat out blood. Bang! Meng Fong rolled, his blood surging as he spat out several mouthfuls of blood. This general deserves death. Meng Fong did not dare to complain. He knelt on the ground, not even daring to beg for mercy. Whoosh! Emperor Feng appeared outside the periphery with Yi Qinghan. Seeing the middle-aged man's appearance, Emperor Feng was somewhat wary. He whispered into his ear, "This person is Xia Jiulong's most capable follower. His name is Xian Xiu, and his cultivation has already reached the high stage of the upper level. His cultivation is not inferior to the elders of the various holy lands. I have just stepped into that stage, so I am not his match." Yi Qinghan crossed his arms and said indifferently, "Where is Xia Jiulong? Send me in. If he wants me to leave, then let him come and invite me out himself. While I'm at it, I want to bring someone out. If you can make this decision, then I won't trouble His Highness the Crown Prince to personally come to such an unlucky place like prison." Xian Xiu frowned as he looked at Emperor Feng, then sneered, "Yi Qinghan, are you courting death, or are you extremely daring? His Highness letting you leave alive is already a great favor. You still dare to bargain and make His Highness come personally?" Yi Qinghan shrugged and said, "It doesn't matter. Then I won't go out. Anyway, this place is not bad. Other than being a little desolate, I can still endure it." Xian Xiu was furious. He clenched his iron fist and grabbed at Yi Qinghan. His aura was like a rainbow, and his sky-covering hand was like a cage, not allowing anyone to resist. Boom! Emperor Feng's godly power surged, and his aura soared into the sky. The two palms collided, and the shockwaves pushed back the experts around them. Even Yi Qinghan was no exception. Thud thud thud. Emperor Feng's face was pale, and his blood was in turmoil. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood and retreated dozens of steps until he was beside Yi Qinghan. Emperor Feng. I didn't expect you to reach this level in this barren land. Not bad, but you can stay here for the rest of your life. His Highness will not allow you to leave unless you kneel to His Highness, Xian Xiu said indifferently. Emperor Feng was silent. His chest rose and fell, but he did not refute. Yi Qinghan said firmly, then go back and tell His Highness that I like this place and won't go out. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Xian Xiu said angrily. So what? Do you dare to kill me? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and said provocatively. Chapter 1912. You dare to kill me? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and retorted. Xian Xiu flew into a rage out of humiliation and clenched his fists. If Feng Huang wasn't here, he could just capture Yi Qinghan and bring him out. However, Feng Huang was here. If Yi Qinghan was delayed for a moment, Yi Qinghan would retaliate. If Yi Qinghan was injured or killed, the Holy Empire would not only lose an immortal pill, but also offend so many holy lands. Humph. Xian Xiu was burning with anger. He flicked his sleeves and left. Yi Qinghan watched Xian Xiu leave, then looked at Meng Fong with a sinister smile. He patted his face and said, I told you that I would return the blow you gave me 100-fold. Do you believe me now? Meng Fong's expression suddenly changed. He looked at Yi Qinghan warily and threatened in a cold voice, Yi Qinghan, you dare, slap. Before Meng Fong could finish his sentence, Yi Qinghan slapped him across the face with boundless physical strength. Boom! Before Meng Fong could react, Yi Qinghan raised his leg and kicked him in the chest. Boom boom boom. Meng Fong spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. He crashed heavily into a rock, causing stone fragments to fly everywhere. You're courting death. Meng Fong roared. He grabbed at the air and a spear appeared in his hand. He seized the air and stabbed forward with lightning speed. Yi Qinghan did not even have the slightest interest in dodging. Instead, he simply stood there and waited. His eyes stared at Meng Fong's spear as he said coolly, if you kill me, I believe Xia Jiulong will annihilate your entire family. Boom! The spear slid past Yi Qinghan's face, cutting off a strand of hair. However, Yi Qinghan did not even blink. He smiled at Meng Fong's ferocious and unwilling face. The two of them faced each other and were only half a meter apart. They could hear each other's breathing. Slap! Boom! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and slapped Meng Fong's face. Then, he clenched his fist and punched Meng Fong's chest in a frenzy. One could only see his afterimage. He was extremely fast. A total of 97 punches, in addition to the 2 slaps and 1 kick, made for a total of 100 punches. Meng Fong's body was sent flying several hundred meters away. The guards were furious, but they didn't dare to say anything, nor did they dare to help. They could only watch helplessly. I've said it before. I'll return it 100 times over. I won't beat you more than once. Yi Qinghan looked at Meng Fong and said indifferently. Meng Fong's face was ferocious and his eyes were burning with rage. He wanted nothing more than to crush Yi Qinghan. TSK, look at your eyes. It's as if you can't wait to eat me. Are you blaming me? If you have the ability, then hit me. Why don't you dare to fight back? Yi Qinghan sneered. Unfortunately, without Xia Jiulong's order, Meng Fong didn't even dare to hurt Yi Qinghan. Feng Huang didn't participate. He knew that Yi Qinghan dared to cause trouble because he had the ability. He bet that Xia Jiulong wouldn't dare to kill him. Without an order, the guards wouldn't dare to move. Outside the imperial city, Xian Xiu quickly came to Xia Jiulong and whispered in his ear that Yi Qinghan isn't willing to come. He said that he wants to bring Feng Huang away. Otherwise, he won't come out. Gotcha. Xia Jiulong's anger changed the order of heaven and earth. Killing intent enveloped him. He looked at the people from the other holy lands and then at Yan Ao. Suddenly, he laughed out of anger and said, "The people from the arrogant sect are all bad-tempered. Aren't you afraid of death? I'll say this on behalf of my sect master. He's here as a guest. If you capture and release him as you wish, where will my arrogant sect's face go? Since you can capture him, then you should personally bring him out." Yan Ao said coldly. Ha 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 ha. Xia Jiulong laughed out loud. Perhaps he was really angry. He put his hands behind his back and said, "Arrogant sect's face. You want this emperor to personally bring him out?" Xia Jiulong took a deep breath and continued, "Fine. Since you want face, then this emperor will give you face. I'm just afraid that you won't be able to bear it later." After saying that, Xia Jiulong flicked his sleeves and left, heading straight for the heaven-sealing prison. Inside the heaven-sealing prison, Meng Fong was extremely angry. He half-squatted not far from Yi Qinghan, his 5 fingers digging into the rock. A large number of guards surrounded Yi Qinghan. Even the prisoners wanted to do something in exchange for 2 saint pills. Unfortunately, Meng Fong didn't dare to say anything. He didn't dare to take revenge on Yi Qinghan. Whoosh! Xia Jiulong's figure flashed as if he was jumping through space. Wherever he passed, the void shackles would shatter and the stars would move. His dragon robe fluttered in the wind. Xia Jiulong, who was at the peak of the middle stage, was now stronger than Feng Huang, who was half a step into the upper stage. The 7th stage of the 9-star transformations. He can move unhindered in the stars. Is he going to reach the 10th stage? Feng Huang's expression changed. Xia Jiulong's speed was not something an ordinary upper stage cultivator could kill. Back then, he could still be compared to Xia Jiulong. Now, the gap between them had widened. Whoosh! Before Feng Huang could finish his words, Xia Jiulong had already appeared in front of everyone. "Welcome, Your Highness." Meng Fong and the others quickly knelt down. Only some of the prisoners were provoked and retreated. Xia Jiulong narrowed his eyes and stared at Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang. He snorted and didn't even look at Meng Fong. Xia Jiulong's imperial aura surged to the heavens. He was like a natural-born emperor. He looked down at Yi Qinghan and said coldly, "Yi Qinghan, if you want face, I'll give it to you. Follow me." "Tsk tsk tsk," Yi Qinghan clicked his tongue and shook his head, laughing. "Your Highness is indeed the Crown Prince. You capture and release as you please, as if you're bestowing a gift upon me. What do you take me for?" Xia Jiulong asked, "Then what do you want? Give me some compensation. For example, Feng Huang. I'll bring him out and this debt will be settled." Yi Qinghan said mockingly. Xia Jiulong looked coldly at Feng Huang. Although he didn't put him in his eyes, he still wouldn't allow Feng Huang to leave the prison. "Change your request." Xia Jiulong replied coldly. "No." Yi Qinghan replied without hesitation. Xia Jiulong frowned and asked unhappily, "You really don't want to?" "I really don't want to." Yi Qinghan's attitude didn't change and he said firmly. Xia Jiulong exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He clenched his fists and killing intent flashed. After a while, he said indifferently, "Fine, we'll do as you say. Come with me." Feng Huang's eyes flashed with surprise. He didn't expect Xia Jiulong to really let him go. He was extremely grateful, but his expression didn't change. Xia Jiulong took the lead and moved 1,000 meters with each step. Although Yi Qinghan and Feng Huang used all their strength, they were still left far behind. Shio shio shio. Boom boom boom. The two chased, trying to close the distance. But after a while, the distance between them had exceeded 1,000 meters. Feng Huang couldn't help but feel discouraged. He didn't expect the gap between him and Xia Jiulong to be so big. At this moment, Xia Jiulong didn't even use 30% of his strength. Yi Qinghan moved 1,000 meters, but he also felt powerless. Xia Jiulong was too strong. Chapter 1913. Xia Jiulong had his hands behind his back, as if he was purposely showing off his strength in front of the two, suppressing their temperament and planting a seed of irresistible force in their hearts. After chasing for a long time, Emperor Feng's emotions were somewhat unstable. He was unwilling to accept that the gap between them had widened so much after so many years, not to mention that his cultivation was higher than Yi Shiwen's. It's just a matter of cultivation method, there's no need to tangle with him. Let's walk slowly. Yi Qinghan suddenly thought it through and walked forward at a moderate pace. Emperor Feng looked at Yi Qinghan's indifferent expression and felt that it made sense. He had been locked up in this prison for so many years. Not to mention cultivation method, he didn't even have a single pill. Moreover, he was dragging his injured body, so it was normal for him to be left behind. After thinking it through, his mood became much better. Although Xia Jiulong was thousands of miles away, he could hear every word of Yi Qinghan's words. Killing intent flashed in his eyes. If it wasn't for the immortal pill and the fear of offending those from the Holy Lands, he would have already killed Yi Qinghan. The three of them left the heaven-sealing prison one after another. The guards didn't dare to question them and respectfully sent Xia Jiulong off. The three of them quickly arrived outside the imperial city. The people from the Holy Lands were anxiously waiting for them. Yan Ao anxiously looked at the figure that was speeding over from afar. He was very excited, but Fazhen was extremely depressed. He knew how powerful the Holy Empire was. After this incident, Xia Jiulong would definitely take revenge on the Kuang sect, and it would be an iron-blooded revenge. Hua! The three of them arrived at the entrance of the imperial city. Xia Jiulong's expression was cold as he clenched his fists, but he was trying his best to restrain himself. I can hand Yi Qinghan over to you, but shouldn't you be clear about when Yi Qinghan will give us the immortal pill? Xia Jiulong asked in a deep voice. Wen Su and the rest looked at Yi Qinghan with doubts in their eyes. There were too many doubts right now. They didn't know which Holy Land's Holy Lord Yi Qinghan had given the immortal pill to make. They also didn't know when the pill would be made. However, Xia Jiulong looked at Wu Yunlai. Since Yi Qinghan was Wu Qin's husband, he must have given the immortal herb to Wu Zhenjuan. Wu Yunlai was baffled by the stare and felt very unhappy. Yi Qinghan had promised so many forces, but not the martial perfected cultivator Holy Land. What qualifications did he have to be the prince consort of the Holy Land? If it wasn't for Wu Zhenjuan's orders, he wouldn't have come to pressure the Holy Empire. Yi Qinghan shrugged. He looked at Yan Ao and asked, Yan Ao, did she say when she would be able to refine the immortal pill? Yan Ao shook his head. He was unable to give a definite answer because Green Lotus Sword Immortal had never communicated with him before. Go back and ask, then inform the various Holy Lands, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Yes, boss. I'll take my leave first. Yan Ao cupped his fists and said. Yi Qinghan nodded as he looked at Fazhen Demon Ancestor and said softly, thank you for your hard work during this period of time. Fazhen Demon Venerable did not say anything as he turned around and left with Yan Ao. This group of people from the Holy Lands all wanted to take Yi Qinghan away. After all, as long as Yi Qinghan was in their hands, the immortal pill would not be able to escape. However, the 6 Holy Lands all wanted it. Who should they give it to? Wu Yunlai said in a domineering manner, this Yi Qing Han is the prince consort of my little ancestor. He should be handed over to me. When the time comes, the Holy Lands will naturally hand over the immortal pills with both hands. What a joke. Since you guys are in cahoots, if Yi Qing Han is taken away by you guys and you guys don't admit it, who will we ask for the immortal pill? Moz asked coldly. The Holy Maiden of my Oshi Holy Lands said that Yi Qing Han should be handed over to our Oshi Holy Lands, Aster said firmly. The Holy Maiden of the Oshi Holy Lands was naturally Yarsheng. She was the daughter of the strongest eternal sovereign of the Oshi Holy Lands. She was also known as the Holy Maiden of the Oshi Holy Lands. Her status was only below the eternal sovereigns. Oshi Holy Lands can forget about taking him away. In the end, it will be good if you can get the immortal pill. Xia Jiulong raised the corner of his mouth and sneered. With Xia Jiulong's words, the Oshi Holy Lands basically had no hope of taking away Yi Qing Han. After all, this was the territory of the Holy Empires. Xia Jiulong's words carried enormous weight. Even if he wanted to keep this group of people here, he could do it. How about this? If everyone trusts my sky-piercing church, then let me take away Yi Qing Han. How about it? His voice was warm and elegant, with an immortal aura. His voice was deep and powerful, making people involuntarily believe him. Everyone was silent for a moment. It seemed that no other force could be more trustworthy than the sky-piercing church. Yi Qing Han thought about it. He still believed in the sky-piercing church. At least, they were more trustworthy than the people of Infernal Realm. Therefore, he nodded and agreed. Brother Feng, come with me to the sky-piercing church first. You can leave after that. Yi Qing Han was somewhat worried about Xia Jiulong. He was worried that Feng Huang would be captured as soon as he left the imperial city. He really couldn't escape, so he reminded him. Feng Huang immediately nodded and said, "Many thanks, Sect Master Yi. I will repay your kindness in the future." Xia Jiulong sneered and didn't expose him. Watching the other Holy Lands leave, he looked at Wen Su and said, "Dean Wen, please do me a favor." Wen Su pretended to be calm and silently replied, "What favor?" "When Feng Huang leaves the sky-piercing church, help this emperor kill him. Do it secretly. At least wait until we get the immortal pill." Xia Jiulong said firmly. Wen Su frowned. How could he do such a thing? Killing Feng Huang was simple, but if word got out, wouldn't he become Yi Qing Han's enemy forever? In the future, the reputation of the sky-piercing church would be affected. I can't do it. Your Highness, please think of another way. Wen Su shook his head and bluntly refused. Then, he waved his hand and directly swept away Yi Qing Han and Feng Huang. The two didn't even have a chance to resist. This was the gap between them. Crack. Xia Jiulong looked at Wen Su's back and clenched his fists. He took a deep breath and his aura became cold. Xian Xiu, take the 9 lords and personally carry out the mission to kill Feng Huang at all costs. Just don't make things difficult for the sky-piercing church. After speaking, Xia Jiulong slowly returned to the imperial city. His aura soared and the entire imperial city fell into a dead silence. Xian Xiu took the mission and went straight to the 9 lords. The 9 lords were still in the capital and hadn't left. Half a day later, Xian Xiu took the 9 lords and left quietly. His figure flickered as he rushed towards the sky-piercing church's territory. In the imperial city, Xia Jiulong was wearing a dragon robe and resting on the dragon throne. He frowned and indifferently muttered to himself, "Why do I feel uneasy? Feng Huang is no longer a threat to me. As for Yi Qing Han, he's just a lower realm cultivator. I can kill him with a wave of my hand." After a long time, Xia Jiulong suddenly stood up and rushed towards the sky-ceiling prison. His figure flickered as he broke through the void and rushed towards the valley filled with resentment. The valley was surrounded by danger zones. Xia Jiulong had already ordered that this was a forbidden area. No guards were allowed to enter, so almost no one had come here. Even if they did, they would die here. Xia Jiulong stepped into the valley and walked along the cliff. After turning a corner, a man in ragged clothes appeared in front of him. Xia Jiulong stared at the man and coldly asked, "Has someone been here before?" Whoosh! That man revealed an ominous glint in his eyes. His eyes were like stars that could capture one's soul as he stared at Xia Jiulong. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.